My name is Lin Qiye. I just got my exam results, and they're bad. My gene potential is only 5%, but you need at least 7% to get into a public martial arts university. Basically, I failed. My teacher gave me two choices: pay for a private university myself, or accept a government job placement. I went home and told my parents. My dad sighed and said we don't have the money. I have 3 younger siblings still in school. My mom said the placement isn't so bad. My second and fourth brothers took it, got married, had kids, and live stable lives working on farms. That's what most ordinary people do here. But I can't accept that. See, I'm not really from this world. I transmigrated here, to this interstellar era where people practice martial arts. I came here hoping for something extraordinary, but my talent turned out to be average. In this society, if you fail the exam, your life is basically set. Farm work, marriage, children, government subsidies, repeat. My parents had 10 kids. I'm number 7. That's literally why my name is Qiye, meaning 7. They're still having more. I don't want that life. I want to see the universe. If I could become a true martial artist, I could join a star exploration team. 500 years ago, the first explorers who came to our star system became powerful lords. Even the weakest fighters among them ended up as rulers. I want that chance. Private university costs 100,000 credits to enroll, then 100,000 every year. Only 10% of private students actually succeed and become real martial artists. If you fail, you're stuck with debt and no government job. You end up delivering packages or working as a security guard. My dad reminded me about our neighbor's son who went to private university, learned some leg technique, still couldn't graduate, and now delivers parcels. That night, I lay in bed, staring out the window, torn between playing it safe and taking on massive debt for a slim chance. Then suddenly, a voice boomed in my head. Host has reached age 18. Binding the many children, many blessings system. Binding successful. The more offspring you have, the stronger your bloodline becomes. Your children's number and quality will directly boost your own power. I couldn't believe it. After 18 years of being single and ordinary, a cheat system finally found me. I confirmed it 3 times. The system is real. After studying it, I figured out how it works. The stronger my partner, the stronger our children, and the more children I have, the more my own power grows. I went to sleep that night punching the air with excitement. The next morning, my younger siblings had already left for school. Dad asked if I'd made my decision. He looked tense, ready to accept whatever I chose. By imperial law, parents can't interfere with their adult children's choices. It's actually a crime. I sat down and said calmly, I've decided. I'm not going to private university. I'll accept the government placement. Mom's eyes lit up. Dad finally smiled. They were so relieved. Mom kept saying how smart this was, how stable the placement would be. She told me to confirm it quickly on my personal terminal. The earlier you apply, the better the partner selection. I opened the terminal on my wrist and submitted. The system matched me right away. Farm manager at Farm 939 in Grain District 16. Basically the same job as my second and fourth brothers. A fancy title for a farmer. Mom said it was great because the holidays are long and I'd have time for family. I didn't really care about the job. What I cared about was the next part, the partner matching. 3 candidates appeared on screen. Candidate A, Li, age 20, high school graduate, ordinary rating, no debt. Gentle personality, strong family values. Candidate B, Wang Fong, age 20, high school graduate, ordinary rating, no debt. Cheerful personality, strong family values. Candidate C, Bai Muxi, age 28, attended a private martial arts academy, but didn't graduate. A quasi-martial-artist. Rating, excellent. But she carries 900,000 credits in student debt, and if I pick her, I'd share half, 450,000 credits. My parents liked the first 2 immediately. Both 20, perfect age for having children. Then they saw me scrolling toward the third option and panicked. Don't you dare click that? Mom was almost screaming. Do you know what 900,000 means? Your salary is 3,000 credits a month. That's 30 years of not eating or drinking just to pay it off. Dad added that once we're married, her full debt becomes our family's problem. He pointed out she's already 28, 8 fewer years of prime childbearing compared to the younger girls. And she's a quasi-martial artist, meaning she's stronger than me and I couldn't control her. Mom went further. These private university women have big dreams. She won't settle down. She'll still want to train, still want to become a real martial artist. She'll drain every credit from your family to fund her training. The money will be gone, she won't succeed, and your life will be ruined. Just pick a 20-year-old girl and live a peaceful life. In their eyes, this was 100 times dumber than going to private university. At least that would only be my own debt. Now I'd be taking on a stranger's burden. I hesitated. They had a point about the debt. But my system changes everything. The stronger the mother, the better the children, and the bigger the boost to my own power. Bai Muxi, as a quasi-martial artist, would give me far more than either of the ordinary girls. Once you choose a partner through placement, you can't change until you become a full martial artist. This is a one-time decision. I kept staring at Bai Muxi's profile. My choice was purely based on the system's logic. It was definitely not because she was beautiful. I ignored my parents' protests and went to meet Bai Muxi. They sighed and watched me leave, but they couldn't stop me. It's the law. The meeting was on the 13th floor of the district administrative building, in a small cold room with just a metal table, 2 chairs, and a water dispenser. I arrived first. When the door opened, I froze for a moment. Bai Muxi looked even better than her photo. She wore a simple white t-shirt and dark blue shorts, but her long legs were impossibly toned and her skin was flawless. She looked nothing like 28. That's what years of martial training does. Quasi-martial artists have such strong metabolism that they age much slower than ordinary people. Real martial artists apparently look 18 even at 50 or 60. She was studying me too. I could tell she didn't like how I was looking at her, like I was evaluating merchandise. But she had no choice. She couldn't afford to keep studying. Her family had cut her off, and by imperial law, if she didn't accept partner matching, she'd be sent to forced labor until her debt was paid. That would be worse than death. She spoke first, voice cold and direct. You've seen my file. 900,000 in debt, shared between us. I'm 28, 10 years older than you. I have one condition. After marriage, I want to keep training. I want to break through to become a real martial artist. This was her 9th matching attempt. The previous 8 men all ran away after hearing her terms. I frowned. You mean keep attending private university at 100,000 a year? My salary would be 3,000 a month, 36,000 a year. That wouldn't even cover it. She nodded and explained her plan. If we had 3 children, the government subsidy would be 54,000 per year. She'd put in 30,000 of her own, and she'd only need 16,000 from me. She'd also gotten a 5-year interest-free period on her debt. I was speechless. Her determination was incredible. When I stayed quiet, she stood up to leave. If you don't agree, there's no point continuing. She was ready to try number 10, 20, however many it took. Wait, I said. I never said no. She quickly sat back down. I looked at her and asked about what her profile said. Strong desire to have children. You mentioned 3 or 4 kids. Are you serious? Her ears turned red, but she set her jaw. Yes, she thought it all through. With 3 kids and the subsidies, she could return to martial arts training within about 3 years. I tapped the table, thinking. Her willingness to have many children. That was exactly what I needed for my system. Deal, I said. Then I looked her straight in the eyes. I like children. The more the better. Can you handle that? Her face flushed, part embarrassment, part shock. She bit her lip and replied coldly. As long as you provide enough resources to keep my body in shape, children aren't a problem. How many do you want? I held up one finger. She frowned. 10, I shook my head. A football team? I spoke calmly, with absolute seriousness. Until you can't anymore. My words hit Bai Muxi like thunder. Her face turned deep red, a mix of shock, embarrassment, and disbelief. She'd met greedy men before, but never one who talked about having children like it was an endless production line. A football team was already her limit of imagination. Until you can't anymore was something else entirely. But I watched her expression change as she thought it through. I could almost see the gears turning in her head. A man obsessed with having children and a woman who needs resources to train. Our goals are completely different, but on the matter of having kids, we perfectly align. More children means more government subsidies. For her, that's training money. For me, it's what my system needs. Her body relaxed. She looked at me with cold but calm eyes. Fine, but I have conditions. Go ahead. First, all the child subsidies go to me for training. Any leftover from your salary after household expenses also goes to support my practice. Deal, I said without hesitation. She blinked, surprised I agreed so fast. Second, you can't interfere with my training. I need my own space and time. Done. We'll have 2 bedrooms. One can be your training room. Third, she paused. You can't touch me until we become a real couple. I smiled. Miss Bai, I think you're confused. We're not dating. We're executing an agreement. The whole point is having children. There's no becoming a real couple stage. We start tonight. The sooner you get pregnant, the sooner you get the subsidies. Isn't that what you want? Her last bit of romantic illusion shattered. She stared at my outstretched hand for a long time, then reached out and shook it. Deal. We let go immediately. Everything after that moved fast. We confirmed the match on our terminals. The system generated a partnership agreement. We signed, and our status updated in the citizen database instantly. We got assigned housing. Unit 1314, Building B, Sunflower Garden, Grain District 16. The keys were sent to our devices with a cheerful message wishing us a happy life and encouraging us to contribute to the empire's prosperity. Back at my parents' house, they saw Bai Muxi beside me and heard we'd already registered. They could only accept it. When she went to the bathroom, Mom grabbed me. You fool. 900,000 in debt. You're jumping into a fire pit. I told them what they wanted to hear. We'd start having children right away. She has a strong desire to have kids, and there'd be no expensive wedding. Everything kept simple. That calmed them down a little. At least she seemed like a woman willing to settle down and live a real life. I obviously didn't mention her plan to keep training in martial arts. That was between me and Bai Muxi only. Mom whispered her final advice. Be careful with money. That 900,000 is no joke. And she's not young anymore. Hurry up and have a few kids so you can get those subsidies to ease the burden. Bai Muxi told me we could skip meeting her parents. They'd given up on her, angry that she chose martial arts over their plans and picked a farm worker as a partner. She said they made it clear they wouldn't be involved anymore. That suited me fine. I never cared for complicated social obligations. With my system, I had one clear goal: have as many children as possible. The next day, we had a simple dinner at a restaurant on the commercial street with my parents and my 3 younger siblings. The atmosphere was awkward. Mom and Dad smiled stiffly, while the kids kept staring curiously at their new sister-in-law, who appeared out of nowhere. After dinner, we went straight to our new home, Unit 1314, Building B, Sunflower Garden. A standard 2-bedroom apartment, about 50 square meters, basic furniture and appliances included. Government housing, only 800 credits a month. Not bad for a starting point. Bai Muxi chose the smaller bedroom for herself, leaving the bigger one for other uses. I knew she wanted to turn it into a training room. I didn't argue. We unpacked quickly. Night fell. We had a simple dinner, then washed up. There was only one double bed in the main bedroom. When Bai Muxi came out of the bathroom in a loose silk nightgown, her hair still wet, she froze when she saw me sitting on the edge of the bed. Under the light, I caught a flash of shyness on her face, something completely different from her usual cold, tough attitude. She was 28, a quasi-martial artist, but she'd never been in a relationship before. Her fingers twisted the hem of her clothes nervously. She whispered, barely audible. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't nervous too. A woman this beautiful would have been completely out of my league in my past life. The only reason she was my partner now was her crushing debt and her demand to keep training, and I happened to need a strong partner willing to have endless children. Our deal fit perfectly. I took a deep breath and tried to sound calm. It's late. Let's sleep. Even I thought that sounded stiff. She trembled slightly and gave a tiny, I got under the covers first, staying on the far edge to give her space. She hesitated, then slowly climbed in on the other side. We lay there with a gap between us, both of us hearing each other's breathing and heartbeat. The silence stretched on. I could feel her body rigid beside me. My palms were sweating. I cleared my throat. We should rest early. I have to report to the farm tomorrow. She didn't respond. If anything, she seemed even more tense. I closed my eyes, thinking about the contrast between the fierce woman who negotiated so boldly during the day and this shy, vulnerable person beside me now. For a proud quasi-martial artist, choosing this life must have been agonizing. And here I was, a transmigrator chasing a system mission, walking an equally uncertain path. A long time passed, I thought she'd fallen asleep. Then her quiet voice came through the darkness, trembling with a mix of shame and raw determination. Lin Qiye, didn't you say we start tonight? My eyes snapped open. I turned my head. In the dim light, she was looking at me too. Her beautiful eyes shimmered with a complicated mix: shyness, anxiety, and the courage of someone who'd thrown everything on the line. She was biting her lower lip, as if those words had taken every ounce of strength she had. Looking at her like that, my heart skipped a beat. After Bai Muxi said those words, her face turned completely red, even her ears. The scent from her bath filled the air. She'd taken the initiative. I couldn't back down either. I took a deep breath, turned toward her, and gently took her hand resting on the blanket. Her fingers were cold and trembling. She didn't pull away. She just closed her eyes, her long eyelashes casting small shadows in the dim light. Afterward, she curled up under the covers with her back to me. I was about to say something when the system's voice rang in my head. Newbie bonus received. My status panel appeared. Gene potential, 5.15%. Physical, 51. Spirit, 59. Spirit energy, 9. Martial art, radio calisthenics, set 128. Partner, Bai Muxi, favorability 50. Children, none. The newbie bonus gave me two things. First, a 1% boost to my gene potential. Second, within the first 10 attempts, Bai Muxi's pregnancy chance goes to 100%. A warm current flowed through my body instantly. I felt lighter, sharper, more alive. I checked my stats again. Gene potential had jumped to 6.15%, and all my other numbers went up too, with a sign showing there was still room to grow. Let me explain how this world works. Gene potential is everything. Ordinary people sit between 1% and 5%. At 7%, you qualify as a quasi-martial artist and can attempt to break through. At 10%, you officially become a martial artist. Your body, mind, and even lifespan all transform. It's a complete change in your level of existence, and your social status jumps with it. Physical stats cover strength, speed, and endurance. Spirit covers perception, willpower, and energy control. Both are limited by your gene potential ceiling. Then there was the last attribute, spirit energy. I couldn't recall ever learning about this in school. It might be a hidden stat, or something only higher-level martial artists deal with. But the system listed it alongside the others, so it had to be important. Every cell in my body was buzzing with energy. I wanted to rush out and test my strength right then, but it was the middle of the night and the public testing centers were closed. So I turned my attention to the other reward. Guaranteed pregnancy within 10 attempts. I glanced at Bai Muxi beside me. She was curled up, back toward me, breathing steadily like she was asleep. This was her wish too. The sooner she gets pregnant, the sooner the subsidies start, the sooner she can train again. The system had given us a guaranteed outcome. Why wait? I shifted closer and carefully put my arm around her. Her body went stiff. Her breathing got uneven. What are you doing? She whispered. I didn't pull back. I moved closer. Muxi, I said softly, in a tone that left no room for argument. She trembled slightly. The night felt endless. The fake starlight outside the window kept flickering while let's just say we got to work on our agreement. After a while, I was ready to suggest we take a break. But when I looked down, Bai Muxi's eyes were open, and they had a completely different look from before, soft, glowing, and full of energy. Before I could react, she flipped our positions with one smooth motion. That's when it hit me. She's a quasi-martial artist. All her stats are between 70 and 100. Mine are barely around 60. She's been training for years. Her stamina is on a completely different level from mine. I'd been mentally planning to spread this out over several days. She clearly had other ideas. Looking at the fighting spirit in her eyes, I felt a mix of excitement and fear. Was I about to be completely drained? This happy problem came way too fast. The night got even longer. Eventually, she said softly, "Let's stop here for today." There was a hint of sympathy in her voice, and also a tiny bit of pride about her superior stamina. I secretly checked my system panel. Pregnancy progress, 9 out of 10. Just one more time. One more, and the system would activate the reward. New energy surged through me from somewhere deep inside. I set my jaw and said firmly, "No?" One more time. Bai Muxi stared at me in shock. She could tell my body was exhausted. I'd been running on fumes. "You skinny dog. Can you even handle it? She asked, half worried, half impressed. How about we stop and I'll make you soup tomorrow to help you recover. The moment she said, make soup, her face turned bright red. She couldn't believe she'd just offered to cook for a man. But then she reminded herself, she was a wife now. Making soup wasn't a big deal. And even though I was thin and clearly outmatched physically, my stubbornness tonight had actually earned her respect. Maybe she hadn't picked the wrong man after all. While she was lost in thought, I made my move again. She yelped in surprise. Again? You're still going? And then, the system chimed. Congratulations. Partner Bai Muxi has conceived. Reward received. Random martial art training access unlocked. Radio calisthenics, set 128. Training permission granted. Level 1, progress, 0 out of 10. The system confirmed Bai Muxi was pregnant and gave me a reward. Training progress for my martial art was now visible. My radio calisthenics, set 128, showed level 1, progress 0 out of 10. I asked the system what this meant. It explained that now I could see exactly how much training I needed to level up. Before, practicing was like groping in the dark. I never knew if I was making progress. Now the system showed me clearly. Just 10 more practice sessions to reach level 2. 10 sessions. That's it. I'd been practicing this same calisthenics routine since elementary school, 10 full years, and never broke past level 1. That's why my exam scores were so low. 10 years of zero progress. And now the system says 10 more times will do it? This system is insane. If it had appeared just 6 months earlier, I definitely could have passed the exam and gotten into a public university. Definitely. I jumped out of bed, completely ignoring how wrecked my body felt. Bai Muxi was lying there lazily, ready to compliment my endurance, when she saw me stand up and start doing the radio calisthenics routine right there in the bedroom. She was stunned. She couldn't understand why anyone would practice that thing after graduating. She'd spent 8 years tutoring kids in martial arts. Even middle-class families had moved on to better methods like the 8 treasures technique, which is at least 10% more efficient with proper guidance. And here I was, wobbling through the movements like I was about to collapse. But I gritted my teeth and forced myself through every single move. When I finished the last one, I checked the panel. Level 1, progress 1 out of 10. It counted. Then my body gave out completely. Everything went black and I fell straight back onto the bed, out cold, snoring immediately. Hey, Lin Qiye, you haven't showered. You stink. You smelly man, Bai Muxi complained, but I was already gone. Apparently, she brushed the sweaty hair from my forehead and stared at me for a long time, confused by what kind of man I was. She sighed and decided she really would make that soup tomorrow. The next morning, I woke up to an incredible smell. My head pounded like a hangover and my whole body felt hollow, reminders of last night's marathon. I opened my eyes to our new apartment's ceiling. Awake, came a cool voice with a tiny hint of warmth. I turned and saw Bai Muxi carrying a clay pot from the kitchen. She wore a simple cotton dress, her hair loosely pinned up, morning light falling softly across her face. She looked gentler than usual, less like a fierce warrior, more like a wife. The way she concentrated on not spilling the soup made me stare a little longer than I meant to. I struggled to sit up as Bai Muxi set the clay pot on the table. The smell was amazing. Without looking at me, she poured a bowl. Come drink. You used up too much energy last night. My face went hot. She wasn't wrong. I got out of bed and nearly buckled. My legs were wobbly and my back ached everywhere. The gap between a quasi-martial artist and an ordinary person is no joke. She noticed my shaky legs and her lips twitched upward for just a second before she went back to her cold expression. Go shower first. You stink. She was right about that too. I rushed to the bathroom. Having our own place was great. No more fighting 6 family members for one bathroom. I came out with just a towel, drying my hair. My body actually looked a little better than before, probably from the stat boost. Faint outlines of abs were starting to show. Bai Muxi glanced up and her face instantly turned red. She looked away fast, but I caught her reaction. I didn't think much of it though. I just sat down and tried the soup. It was incredible. She called it vitality broth, made from low-level beast bones and medicinal herbs. The warmth spread through my whole body, washing away the soreness and exhaustion. This is delicious, I said. A flash of happiness crossed her eyes, but she kept her tone flat. It helps with recovery. If you're going to, keep doing what you did last night. You should drink more. Her voice got quieter toward the end, and her cheeks flushed again. I looked at her sincerely. Thank you, Muxi. She avoided my eyes. Don't thank me. We're partners. This is just normal. We ate quietly. I kept staring at her. The morning light on her face, the lingering blush, the way she sipped her soup so delicately. She caught me looking. Is there something on my face? I smiled. You're really beautiful. Her entire face went red like a ripe apple. Smooth talker, she snapped, but I could see the tiny spark of happiness she was trying to hide. She quickly changed the subject and told me to hurry up and eat so I wouldn't be late for my first day at work. I asked about her plans for the day. She hesitated, set down her bowl, and said quietly, I might be pregnant. My terminal's health monitor flagged something this morning. I booked an appointment at the clinic for tomorrow. I already knew from the system, of course. But I played my part perfectly, eyes going wide with excitement. Really? She nodded, looking relieved and nervous at the same time. I grinned proudly. Looks like last night's hard work paid off. You. Her face burned crimson. She crumpled a napkin and pretended to throw it at me. Stop talking. Just eat. I raised my hands in surrender, still grinning like an idiot. She glared at me, but couldn't fully hide her own smile. For her, getting pregnant this fast was wonderful news too. The sooner the baby comes, the sooner the subsidies start, and the sooner she can restart her martial arts training. We sat there finishing our soup in a strangely comfortable silence. Both happy, both looking forward to what came next, connected by our shared deal that was slowly starting to feel like something a little more. After breakfast, I put on my dark blue farm manager uniform. Bai Muxi straightened my collar and told me to be careful. I told her to rest and not overwork herself. We smiled at each other. No big words needed, just a quiet warmth between us. Walking out, I checked my system panel. My stats had gone up again. Physical now 56, and Bai Muxi's favorability had risen to 60, up 10 points from yesterday. One child on the way. I felt great. At the bus stop outside our apartment complex, I spotted a familiar face wearing the same uniform. A slightly chubby guy staring at his terminal and sighing. How's he? I called out. Wang Hao looked up and his jaw dropped. Lin Qiye? What are you doing here? He was my high school classmate. His gene potential was only 3%, even lower than mine. He was one of the first in our class to give up on martial arts and accept government placement. He was assigned to Farm 952 in Grain District 16. I was at Farm 939. Pretty close. He couldn't believe how fast I'd moved. He figured I'd at least try private university. Then he noticed I was standing at the bus stop right outside the housing complex, which only gets assigned to people who've already completed partner matching and registered a family. You already matched with someone. He was completely shocked. I'd basically completed every step in record time. I just shrugged and said private university was too expensive. Right then, my wrist terminal buzzed. A message from Bai Muxi. I opened it and my eyes widened. She'd sent me a licensed copy of 8 Treasures Art, an official beginner martial technique that's at least 10% more efficient than the radio calisthenics I'd been doing. The message said, I saw you practicing calisthenics last night. This is better. Look it over, and I'll teach you tonight when you get home. I was genuinely touched. In this empire, all martial techniques are strictly copyright protected. You need an official license to practice them. Illegal use means massive fines or even prison. The technique itself only costs 1,000 credits, but hiring a tutor runs 200 to 300 per class for group lessons or 500 for one-on-one. My parents had never been willing to spend that money. And here was Bai Muxi, buying it for me and offering to personally teach me. Having a quasi-martial artist partner really is something special. Of course, the price of that, her 900,000 in debt and her demands, isn't something most ordinary men would accept. While I was reading the message, Wang Hao caught a glimpse of Bai Muxi's tiny profile photo on my screen. Even in a small ID picture, her beauty was unmistakable. Perfect features, porcelain skin, sharp phoenix eyes. He grabbed my arm. That's your partner? I nodded calmly. He swore out loud, his voice dripping with jealousy. Wang Hao was so jealous his face scrunched up. I could tell he was convinced Bai Muxi's photo was fake. No way a farm manager could land a woman that beautiful, he must have been thinking. He kept sneaking glances at his own partner's photo on his terminal, then looking at me with resentment. We boarded the hovering express line together. The city buildings gave way to endless fields of crops stretching to the horizon, divided into huge blocks with artificial lighting and climate control systems. Giant farming machines sat between the rows, the same machines we'd be operating. During the ride, I closed my eyes and studied the 8 treasures art that Bai Muxi had sent me. It was clearly more advanced than the calisthenics. It included breathing techniques and precise body control methods. No wonder schools didn't teach it for free. Teachers couldn't even be bothered to properly teach the basic calisthenics, let alone this. I thought to myself, tonight, I need to learn properly from my wife. We got off at station 950. Wang Hao headed to farm 952. I went the opposite direction to farm 939. The farm office was a simple 3-story building. A friendly middle-aged man named Supervisor Zhang welcomed me and showed me around. Farm 939 grows high-energy nutritional grain and some specialty crops. My assigned area was Section C7, where they grow Golden Spike No. 1 grain. The job was more involved than I expected. I had to learn to operate semi-automated machines, seeders, fertilizers, irrigation systems, and a massive combine harvester called Harvest Beast No. 5. I also had to monitor crop health daily, record data, check equipment, and report problems. It needed both physical effort and attention to detail. I spent the day reading manuals and walking my section. Other workers drove by on patrol carts, but left me alone, which suited me fine. The farming technology was advanced, but still needed human judgment. Being a modern farmer wasn't as mindless as I'd imagined. When the shift ended, I stretched and headed home, feeling tired but satisfied. My mind was already on what waited for me. Dinner and Bai Muxi teaching me the 8 treasures art. I opened the door and called out, "Wife, I'm home." The bedroom door opened, and Bai Muxi stepped out in a tight black training outfit, drenched in sweat from practice. Her wet hair clung to her forehead, her cheeks were flushed from exercise, and her figure was distracting. When she heard me casually call her wife, she froze. Her blush deepened. Her eyes darted away nervously. She hesitated, seemed to gather her courage, and then whispered in a voice barely louder than a mosquito, "Husband, you're home." That was the first time Bai Muxi called me husband. My heart swelled. She looked so cute trying to stay composed while blushing furiously. She quickly pointed toward the kitchen. "Dinner's ready." I had some time, so I practiced a bit. Of course she did. This woman never wastes a single moment on anything but training. She said she was sweaty and needed to shower. She practically fled toward the bathroom. But before she could close the door, I followed her in. "What are you doing?" she yelped. I hugged her from behind and whispered near her ear, "Let's shower together. Save water. It's what the Empire would want." "No." MMPH. An hour later, she finally came out of the bathroom in clean house clothes, face bright red, refusing to look at me. She sat at the table and silently served me rice, ears burning. I sat down feeling refreshed and very pleased with myself. Over dinner, she asked about my first day. I told her it went fine. The work was a bit tedious but manageable. The supervisor was nice, and co-workers seemed decent. She listened carefully, asking a question here and there. Even though martial arts consumed her mind, she wasn't completely indifferent to my daily life. After we ate, I suggested we take a walk to help digest. She seemed surprised but agreed. We walked through the neighborhood hand in hand. The evening lights were warm, other residents were strolling and chatting. Neither of us talked much, but the silence felt comfortable. She was tall enough that even in flat shoes, she only came half a head shorter than me. I could feel the warmth of her hand in mine. She seemed to be thinking that this quiet, ordinary life wasn't as unbearable as she'd imagined. Then a familiar voice broke the moment. "Lin Qiye?" What a coincidence. It was Wang Hao, walking toward us with his arm around a slightly plump girl, his match partner. The second he saw Bai Muxi in person, he froze completely. His eyes went wide, and his mouth hung open like he'd seen a ghost. He'd been clinging to hope all day that her photo was fake. But now the real Bai Muxi stood right in front of him, and she was even more stunning than the picture. Tall, graceful figure, flawless skin glowing under the streetlights. Those sharp phoenix eyes now softened just slightly from being with me. She stood beside me like some otherworldly being. Wang Hao looked like he forgot how to breathe. Wang Hao recovered quickly enough to be polite. He introduced his partner, Lin Qiye, a friendly-looking, slightly chubby girl. She greeted us shyly, and I noticed her eyes lingered on me a bit before she blushed. Bai Muxi just gave a slight nod. We exchanged a few words and I could feel the awkwardness, so I kept it short. We just finished dinner and came out for a walk. We'll get going. I took Bai Muxi's hand and we left. After we walked away, I imagined Wang Hao had quite the internal struggle. His partner had apparently told him how good we looked together. The handsome guy and the beautiful woman, a perfect match. Wang Hao must have swallowed hard and told her he preferred her body type, that skinny women weren't his thing. Zhang Qian laughed and hit his chest playfully. She seemed happy. Wang Hao probably convinced himself that beautiful women are high maintenance and difficult. That Bai Muxi looked cold and arrogant and was probably terrible to live with. His Zhang Qian was warm and easygoing, the kind of woman you can build a comfortable life with. Be content with what you have, he probably told himself. Meanwhile, Bai Muxi and I kept walking through the neighborhood. Her face was still cool and composed, but her hand never let go of mine. I asked her, "Muxi, did you ever do this before? Just go out for a walk like this?" She paused, then shook her head softly. "No. Before, I was always training. Or worrying about tuition money." Her voice was flat, but I could picture the years of loneliness behind those words. A young woman carrying enormous debt alone, chasing a dream nobody supported, with no time or money for anything as simple as an evening stroll. I squeezed her hand. "That's over now. I'm here. You just focus on your training." She turned to look at me. The streetlight lit up my face, and she stared for a moment. I felt her hand tremble slightly in mine. She didn't say anything, just a quiet, Then she leaned her head gently against my shoulder. The night breeze was cool, but the warmth between us kept growing. I felt her head resting softly on my shoulder as we walked along the tree-lined path. The world seemed to quiet down around us. After a while, she got tired, so we headed home. Back inside, Bai Muxi offered to teach me the 8 treasures art. We stood facing each other in the training room, the converted bedroom. She changed into loose practice clothes and got serious. The 8 treasures art is basic, but it builds a solid foundation for coordination and strength. Watch the moves first, then I'll teach you the breathing techniques. She demonstrated the full routine. Every movement was smooth, powerful, and beautiful. She clearly knew this by heart. I watched carefully, trying to memorize everything. When she finished, slightly out of breath, she asked how much I remembered. I scratched my head. "Honestly, I'm not sure." She laughed. "Don't stress about it." After I became a quasi-martial artist in my 3rd year of university, I started tutoring kids in this technique. I've got 5 years of teaching experience. Getting you started won't be a problem. I asked her how much she charged for lessons. She looked a little proud. When I started, 300 credits an hour. Now, with my reputation, 500 credits an hour. My eyes went wide. "So tonight my wife basically gave me a 1,000 credit gift?" She snorted playfully. "Now you know. So learn properly. If you waste my time, you owe me double." "Yes, ma'am." She spent the rest of the evening patiently correcting my posture, explaining how to generate force, and teaching me when to breathe. I tried my best to copy her, but it was my first time with this technique. My movements were stiff and clumsy, clearly far from correct. She told me not to worry. Take it slow. It looks simple, but finding that feeling where your body and energy work together takes time. Most of my students need 3 to 6 months to get the basics down. This is only your first day. She didn't mention that some talented students mastered it within a week. Looking at me struggling, I obviously wasn't the gifted type, but she was kind enough not to say that. After all, I was her husband, and encouragement works better than criticism. I nodded, but secretly checked my system panel. Under my martial arts list, below Radio Calisthenics, set 128, a new line had appeared. 8 treasures art, not yet learned. I couldn't learn the 8 treasures art yet. The system still showed, not yet learned. It really was much harder than the calisthenics. Bai Muxi told me to take my time absorbing what she'd taught, then went to her side of the room to practice her own advanced routine. Watching her focus so intensely made me feel the pressure. I made a decision. Since I couldn't master the 8 treasures art right away, I'd keep leveling up my radio calisthenics first. With the system, every completed set counted as real, visible progress. That certainty mattered more to me right now than struggling with something I couldn't even start. So I began doing the calisthenics while Bai Muxi trained beside me. She glanced over a few times and frowned at my choice, but said nothing. I appreciated that. I lost track of time. 2 hours of calisthenics on top of 2 hours learning from her. My body was screaming. But the system counter kept climbing. 2 out of 10. 3 out of 10. Bai Muxi finished her own training long before me. She watched me stumble through the last set, barely standing. I could see something complicated in her eyes, confusion at my stubbornness, but also a grudging respect. When I finally finished, my legs gave out. She caught me. That's enough for today? You worked really hard, she said softly. She helped me to the bathroom and ran hot water. I washed on autopilot, collapsed onto the bed without even pulling up the covers, and passed out instantly. She covered me with the blanket, then went to bed herself. I heard later she couldn't sleep. She kept wondering why I was so obsessed with that inefficient calisthenics routine. Did I really think it could change anything? The next morning, I woke up to something pressing on my stomach. I opened my eyes and found Bai Muxi's pale little foot resting right on my belly. She'd sprawled across the bed in her sleep. I carefully moved her leg, and she yawned awake. We stood side by side brushing our teeth. With a mouth full of foam, she mumbled that she had her pregnancy checkup at the community medical center today. I offered to go with her. She shook her head. You just started your job, you can't ask for time off. It's just a routine early pregnancy check. I'll be fine. Then she raised her small white fist and grinned. Besides, I'm a quasi-martial artist. I'm tougher than you. I laughed and tapped her nose. Yes, my wife is the strongest. #1 in the whole world. She blushed and called me a smooth talker, but she was smiling. She wore a light, loose dress today. With her hair down, she looked softer than usual, less warrior, more gentle. After breakfast, I told her to let me know the results right away. She nodded and walked me to the door. I kissed her forehead and left. As I walked away, I imagined her standing in the doorway, smiling softly, touching her still flat belly with one hand. Full of hope and just a little bit nervous. I was starting up the farming machine at section C7 when my terminal buzzed. A voice message from Bai Muxi. Husband, the results are in. The doctor says I'm pregnant. Her voice was bright with excitement. Even though I already knew from the system, hearing her say it made me grin ear to ear. I switched to video call. She looked radiant. The doctor told her to rest, eat well, and gave her some supplements. I told her not to do any heavy work and leave everything to me. She called me a worrywart, but her tone was pure sweetness. After we hung up, I sat there for a moment. I was going to be a father. What a strange, wonderful feeling. The farm wasn't busy. Crops were in their growth phase and didn't need much attention. I drove around my area, checked the irrigation and sensors, logged some data, and then realized I had nothing left to do. So I found a flat spot by the fields and started doing my radio calisthenics. Morning sun, golden grain swaying in the breeze. Not a bad training spot. 1 hour later, progress, 4 out of 10. After a quick lunch, I trained again in the afternoon. Progress, 5 out of 10. Halfway there, I practically ran to catch the express line home. Bai Muxi had dinner ready, wearing an apron in the kitchen. I hugged her from behind. She scolded me gently and told me to wash my hands. It was starting to feel like a real home. After dinner, she taught me the 8 treasures art for an hour, shorter now because of her pregnancy. She also cut her own training down to 1 hour. She said my moves were a little better than yesterday, but I could tell I was still far from mastering it. Then I switched to calisthenics and trained for 3 solid hours. 3 complete rounds. Progress climbed from 6 to 7 to 8 out of 10. Just 2 more and I'd level up. Tomorrow for sure. I collapsed into bed after showering, too exhausted to even talk. Bai Muxi shook her head watching me sleep. I know what she was thinking. She probably believed I was taking the easy path, sticking with familiar, low-efficiency calisthenics instead of pushing through the harder 8 treasures art. In her eyes, it was path dependence, choosing comfort over challenge. She felt sorry for me because the calisthenics has such a low ceiling. But she also saw me working all day and training all night for our family and our future baby, so she let it go. As long as he's happy, she probably thought before falling asleep beside me. What she didn't know was that my system had no ceiling at all. Next morning at the farm, Supervisor Zhang swung by in his patrol cart to check on me. He asked if I was settling in okay and if I'd learned the machines. I told him everything was fine. He seemed satisfied and drove off to check other areas. Good. With the boss visit out of the way, I had more freedom to manage my time. I did my routine first, drove the farming platform around my section, checked crop growth, inspected equipment, logged the data. Everything normal. Then I parked the machine and started training. Morning session, 1 hour of calisthenics under the warm sun, surrounded by endless golden fields. Progress, 9 out of 10. One more to go. In the afternoon, during a work break, I did the final round. When the last movement was complete, sweat pouring off me, the system chimed. Level 1 complete. 10 out of 10. Radio calisthenics, set 128 upgraded to level 2. Gene potential 0.2%. A wave of energy rushed through my entire body. My tired, aching muscles suddenly felt alive and powerful. But the most amazing part was what happened in my mind. The entire level 2 version of the calisthenics appeared crystal clear, every detail, every angle, every point of force. It was as if I'd practiced this refined version thousands of times already. My body moved on its own, following the new movements naturally. Smoother, more coordinated, more powerful. Every stretch and jump felt effortless, like pure instinct. This was the system's true power. No need to understand theory. No need to struggle through bottlenecks. Just keep practicing and the breakthrough happens automatically. The knowledge just downloads into your body. I checked my panel. Gene potential, 6.35%. Physical, 58. Spirit, 64. Spirit energy, 11. Calisthenics now level 2, needing 20 rounds for level 3. 8 treasures art still unlearned. 1 child on the way. Bai Muxi's favorability, 60. The next level needed more repetitions, 20 instead of 10, but at my pace, that's just 2 or 3 days. My gene potential had gone from 5% to 6.35% in less than a week. A whole year of training before the system gave me 0 improvement. Now the numbers were climbing fast. At this rate, I'd break through 7% soon and officially become a quasi-martial artist. For the first time, I truly believed it was possible. That evening, when I started my calisthenics routine at home, Bai Muxi's eyes snapped open mid-meditation. She stared at me with growing shock. She could tell something had changed. My movements were smoother, more precise, more powerful. She recognized it immediately as a level 2 breakthrough. After I finished, she came right up to me. Did your calisthenics break through? I grinned sheepishly. I think so. Feels a lot smoother. What's your gene potential now? She asked, almost urgently. 6.35%. She gasped. I could see her mind racing, trying to figure out how someone like me could improve so fast with the most basic technique in existence. Maybe she thought I was some kind of calisthenics genius. Over the next 5 days, I kept grinding. Every spare moment at the farm, every evening at home, 4 to 5 rounds per day. Bai Muxi still taught me the 8 treasures art each night for an hour, but the system stubbornly showed, not yet learned, no talent there whatsoever. But my calisthenics hit level 3. Another warm surge flooded my body. Gene potential, 6.55%. Physical, 60. Spirit, 65. Spirit energy still stuck at 11. Level 3 calisthenics now needed 30 rounds for the next upgrade. 8 treasures art, still unlearned. The nice surprise was Bai Muxi's favorability climbing to 65. We were settling into a rhythm. She was getting used to being a wife. I did the chores, let her eat first, took care of the little things. She noticed all of it. Her once hardened heart was softening bit by bit. This star system runs on 9-day weeks, 7 work days, 2 rest days. My first full day off lined up perfectly with hitting level 3, so I wanted to test my actual strength at the community gym. At breakfast, I told Bai Muxi my plan. She said she'd come along. Light activity was good for pregnancy, and I think she was curious about my progress too. The gym was already busy when we arrived. Lots of people training hard. Even exam failures in this world keep pushing themselves, hoping for any improvement. In the strength testing area, I heard a familiar voice. Zhang Wei, another high school classmate. His eyes went wide when he saw me, then wider when he saw Bai Muxi. He tried not to stare at her, but failed completely. I introduced her as my partner. He managed a stiff hello, while clearly wondering what kind of luck I'd stumbled into. He suggested we test together. There was a hint of superiority in his voice. Back in high school, he'd been stronger than me. At the gym, I stepped up to the standard punch force target. I planted my foot, twisted my hips, channeled everything through my spine and arm, and slammed my fist into the pad. 602 kilograms. Zhang Wei's jaw dropped. He remembered my score before graduation was barely 500. He was only hitting around 650 himself. Even Bai Muxi looked surprised. But I frowned. With 6.55% gene potential, I should be pushing closer to 700. My power output was lagging behind my actual potential. I still hadn't learned to use my strength efficiently. Zhang Wei asked what my gene potential was now. I told him 6.5%. He couldn't believe it. Back in school, I was average at best, around 5%. He'd been one of the top students at 6.5%, and now I'd caught up in just days. He mumbled something about going to use the weight machines and quietly walked away. Bai Muxi mentioned casually that her gene potential was already 9.5%, just 0.5% from becoming a real martial artist. I begged her to take a swing at the target so I could see what a quasi-martial artist could really do. She gave in. She stood there looking relaxed, then her fist blurred forward. The boom echoed through the entire testing area. 972 kilograms. The whole gym went silent. Everyone stopped and stared. Nearly a ton of force from one punch. People started whispering, "That's a quasi-martial artist. Almost 1,000 kilos. Who is she?" Some guys who'd been looking down on my score were now staring at me with pure envy. My wife just casually punched harder than anyone in the building. "You're incredible," I told her sincerely. She blushed from all the attention, tugged my sleeve, and whispered, "Let's go home." I was fired up. According to what I'd heard, calisthenics at level 5 could push gene potential past 7%, and maxing it out at level 10 could reach 9% or even 10%. Full martial artist territory. That kind of power would be mine someday. Back home, Bai Muxi handed me a glass of water and went quiet for a moment. Then she looked at me seriously. "Qiye, your gene potential is already higher than mine was at your age. When I graduated high school at 18, I was only at 6%. She paused, and something soft and guilty flickered in her eyes. "If I can break through to become a real martial artist, our financial situation will improve a lot. When that happens, maybe you should go to a martial arts university too." Bai Muxi's offer to support me through martial arts university caught me off guard. I could feel the sincerity behind her words. I didn't say yes or no right away. Refusing would hurt her feelings, but I wasn't sure university would actually help me. My system doesn't require understanding or breakthroughs. I just practice, the progress bar fills up, and I level up automatically. No teacher needed. So what would university even do for me? Instead of answering directly, I asked her to tell me what university life was actually like. She thought for a moment, then explained. "It's completely different from high school. Less than 10% of the time goes to theory, things like martial arts history, biology, or mechanics. The other 90% is pure training. Schools have gravity rooms, sparring simulators, meditation chambers, and all kinds of equipment. Once a week, students get a session with a mentor who gives personalized guidance based on your specific problems." She said that's incredibly valuable. Sometimes one sentence from an experienced teacher can save you months of struggling alone. The school also provides specially formulated nutrition meals designed to maximize recovery and gene potential development. That's nearly impossible to replicate at home. She used her own example. Her teachers said if you train the 8 treasures art to level 8 with a solid foundation at every stage, you're guaranteed to break 10% gene potential and become a real martial artist. I asked why you couldn't just train at home. She listed the reasons. The competitive atmosphere pushes you harder, the nutrition science is too complex for individuals, and the mentor guidance is irreplaceable when you hit a wall. Then she mentioned something that really got my attention: rankings and competitions. Monthly evaluations, annual tournaments, with rewards like rare training resources, access to advanced techniques, even private sessions with famous masters. She admitted she'd always been in the lower ranks and never won much. As she talked, my mind started racing. With my system, I don't need mentors to break through bottlenecks. I just grind and level up. From the outside, that looks exactly like a once-in-a-generation genius, someone who never gets stuck, who just keeps improving. If I entered those competitions, I could dominate them. The rankings, the prizes, the rare resources, all of it would accelerate my growth even further. But there was one more reason that sealed it, something so obvious that Bai Muxi didn't even bother mentioning it. In the entire galactic empire, ordinary citizens can only access new martial techniques through universities. Without enrollment, The only well-known technique available to me would be the basic calisthenics. My system needs new techniques to unlock new progress paths, and the only way to get them was through a martial arts university. I asked Bai Muxi about the competition rewards at university, trying to sound casual. Her answer made my eyes go wide. Credit prizes ranging from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands, enough to cover tuition if you stay in the top 10. Gene enhancement drugs. Authorized access to advanced techniques, sometimes even secret ones not available to the public. Opportunities to train in special realms. Personal guidance from famous martial arts masters. Every single one of those things could help me, my family, or Bai Muxi's training. The scale was tipping hard toward going to university. Sounds kind of interesting, I said, playing it cool. Bai Muxi smiled warmly. Let's plan it properly after I break through. Then I grinned and asked her, what if I become a martial artist before you do? She burst out laughing. She clearly didn't believe that for a second. She was at 9.5%, one step from the finish line. It had taken her 8 years of university training to get from 6.5% to 9.5%. I was at 6.55% doing basic calisthenics. In her mind, I'd need 20 years minimum. But to be sweet about it, she hugged my arm and played along. Of course, my husband is the best. I'll be waiting for you to become a big, strong martial artist. I laughed, but inside I was dead serious. I pulled her into my arms and kissed her forehead. We'll both become martial artists. The really powerful kind. She nestled against my chest, happy and content. She didn't think I could beat her, but she loved my confidence and determination. I think she'd stop caring about who got there first. We were in this together now. The 2 rest days flew by. Back at work, I noticed more high school classmates showing up at the bus stop. Everyone was getting placed and settled. Some were happy with their matches, others complained. I just listened quietly. What mattered to me was that I was getting stronger every day. And I discovered something huge, a loophole. It didn't matter if my calisthenics form was perfect or sloppy. As long as I completed the full routine, the system counted it. If I went all out with proper level 3 form, I'd be exhausted after 4 rounds. But if I just went through the motions loosely, barely putting in effort, I could do 10, 15, even 20 rounds. So my evenings became a strange sight. I stopped the 8 treasures art lessons temporarily and devoted everything to calisthenics. My movements got more and more creative, wobbly, half-hearted, barely recognizable as exercise. Bai Muxi couldn't take it anymore. Qiye, does training like that actually work? Your form is completely wrong. I grinned mysteriously. You wouldn't understand, dear. This is called training the spirit, not the body. The essence lies not in the movements, but in grasping the soul of the calisthenics. She stared at me like I was an idiot, shook her head, and gave up. Fine, you keep training the spirit. I'm going to bed. Don't stay up too late. Once she was asleep, I kept grinding for hours. The progress bar climbed beautifully. The next morning, she asked when I'd gone to bed. I told her I'd slept shortly after her. I definitely did not tell her I'd been practicing until midnight. I secretly checked my panel that morning. Calisthenics level 3, progress 11 out of 30. 10 completed in a single day, 2 during work, 8 after Bai Muxi fell asleep. At this rate, I could hit level 4 in 2 days. Then I thought, why not push for it tonight? At the farm, I squeezed in 4 more rounds during breaks. Progress, 15 out of 30. 15 more to go. Each, lazy, round took about 45 minutes. 15 rounds meant roughly 11 hours. If I started at 6 in the evening and went straight through the night, I could make it. Was it crazy? Maybe. But I had a system that could change my entire destiny. If I didn't push now, I'd be wasting the greatest opportunity of my life. Most people would kill for this chance. So I did it. I trained all night. At 6 in the morning, the system chimed. Radio calisthenics upgraded to level 4. Gene potential 0.2%. The familiar warm surge flooded my body, washing away most of the exhaustion from the all-nighter. I checked my stats. Gene potential 6.75%, physical 63, spirit 67, spirit energy 12. Level 4 calisthenics now needed 40 rounds for the next upgrade. Only 0.25% away from 7%, the quasi-martial-artist threshold. A few more days at most. Bai Muxi stirred beside me, rubbing her sleepy eyes. Why are you up so early? I put on my brightest smile. Morning air feels great. Full of energy, No way was I telling her I hadn't slept at all. At the bus stop, I was trying not to yawn when Wang Hao and Zhang Wei showed up. They took one look at my tired face and exchanged knowing grins. "Young man, you should pace yourself. Take care of that body. Your health is your most important asset. You know." They clearly thought my exhaustion was from a very different kind of nighttime activity. Wang Hao and Zhang Wei were clearly teasing me about looking exhausted, thinking it was because of Bai Muxi. I couldn't exactly tell them I'd been up all night doing calisthenics, so I just mumbled something about being busy at work. On the train, I tuned out their chatter and focused on my body. After reaching level 4, the improvement was obvious: stronger, faster, better endurance, sharper senses. Movements that used to strain me now felt effortless. I estimated my punch force could hit 650 kilograms now, maybe more. Once I hit level 5 and crossed the 7% threshold, I'd test myself properly. At the farm, I did my morning inspection, then squeezed in 2 more rounds. Progress, 3 out of 40. Then Supervisor Zhang showed up with extra work. A full crop data survey for my entire section. Detailed measurements, soil samples, the works. 3-day deadline. There went my afternoon training time. I spent the rest of the day driving around collecting data. By quitting time, I'd only finished a fifth of it. Back home, Bai Muxi had dinner waiting. She noticed I looked tired and told me to rest. I asked about her new job. Since she registered her pregnancy, the government assigned her a mama position, a special role for pregnant women with flexible hours, light workload, and pay equal to mine. She'd been placed as a beginner martial arts teacher at a nearby elementary school, teaching first graders basic exercises and calisthenics. Perfect for a quasi-martial artist with 5 years of tutoring experience. The school hours were short, leaving her time to rest and train. We were both happy with the arrangement. Then she looked at me with soft eyes and said quietly, "Lin Qiye, thank you." "For what?" "For choosing me." I took her hand. "We're partners. And I should thank you too, for being willing to have our child, and for building this home with me." We smiled at each other. Nothing more needed to be said. That evening, instead of rushing to train, I sat with her on the couch and watched shows together. Around 9, she got sleepy and went to bed. Then I started my overtime training session, making up for the hours lost during the day. The whole week went like that. Farm surveys eating my daytime, late nights catching up on calisthenics. On the last workday of the week, I pulled another all-nighter. When morning light crept through the curtains, the system finally chimed. Radio calisthenics set 128 upgraded to level 5. Level 5 hit me like a tidal wave. Gene potential, 7%. I was officially a quasi-martial artist. The invisible barrier I'd been pushing against for years finally shattered. I wanted to jump off the bed and shout, but Bai Muxi was sleeping beside me. I crashed out seconds later from exhaustion. 45 days passed. My routine was set. Train during work breaks. Come home to Bai Muxi's cooking and warmth. She'd settled into her elementary school teaching job beautifully, and her belly was starting to show, a gentle curve that softened her warrior's edge. Her favorability had climbed to 80. And today, I maxed out my calisthenics. Level 10. The final level. The system gave me a massive 1% boost for hitting the cap. Gene potential, 9.5%. Physical, 90. Spirit, 90. Spirit energy, 19. I was now equal to Bai Muxi, and she'd spent 8 years in university to reach 9.5%. I did it in under 2 months with basic calisthenics. The power coursing through me was staggering. I felt like I could destroy my old self with a single punch. But I decided against testing at the gym. At this speed of growth, any measurement would be outdated within days. Better to stay low and keep developing. Something unexpected happened when calisthenics hit max level. Suddenly, everything about the 8 treasures art clicked. All those confusing techniques Bai Muxi had been teaching me, all the movements I couldn't grasp, they became crystal clear, like ice melting away. The system updated. 8 treasures art, level 1. I'd finally learned it. But there was no progress bar. The calisthenics had one because the system rewarded it when Bai Muxi got pregnant. The 8 treasures art had no such reward. That meant leveling it up would be the slow, normal way, grinding through talent and effort like everyone else. My calisthenics highway had reached its end. I was back to being an ordinary practitioner. I lay in bed that morning, watching Bai Muxi sleep. 3 months pregnant. Her face peaceful, her belly gently rising under the thin blanket. She had no idea the man lying next to her had already caught up to her gene potential. She probably thought it would take me years just to reach 7%. But I wasn't satisfied. I was stuck at 9.5%, so close to becoming a real martial artist. Yet the 8 treasures art would take ages to level up without the system's help. Bai Muxi herself said it would take 3 to 5 years. Way too slow. The system's core was many children, many blessings. Having children one at a time was too inefficient. I needed to maximize the system's potential. Then it hit me. An idea so crazy it was almost brilliant. A way to break through everything and truly soar. Why didn't I think of this sooner? The next evening, I hugged Bai Muxi from behind while she watered her plants on the balcony. I want to visit the fertility management center, I said casually. I saw online that they pay you for donating genetic material. Good money for quasi-martial artists. She flicked my forehead and laughed. You're an ordinary person. Quasi-martial artists get 5,000 credits per donation. Someone like you would get 500 at most. Not worth the trouble. What if I could get the 5,000? I said with a mysterious smile. Her expression froze. Your gene potential reached 7%. I just smiled and said yes without elaborating. She didn't fully believe me, but she didn't stop me either. She probably figured I was just curious about the process. An hour later, I walked into the fertility management center, a sleek white building that smelled faintly of disinfectant. A professional-looking woman in a fitted suit greeted me and led me upstairs to a private room. No awkwardness from her at all. Clearly routine business. 2 hours later, I walked out feeling great. My terminal showed a fresh 5,000 credit deposit. But the money wasn't the point. My real plan was the system. In this era, there are huge numbers of single women who want children but don't have partners. The government offers generous benefits for single mothers, subsidies, housing, education, healthcare. Their only legal option is to request matched genetic material from the center's database. And quasi-martial artist genes? Extremely rare and in massive demand. My 9.5% gene potential was top-tier material. I knew it would get matched fast. I just didn't expect it to happen this fast. The system's voice thundered in my head. Detected. Host genetic material has been successfully matched and conception achieved. Reward. Random martial art training access unlocked. Taurus official revised edition. 8 treasures art training permission granted. My mind cleared instantly. Everything about the 8 treasures art that had been foggy suddenly became crystal clear. I checked the panel. 8 treasures art level 1, progress 0 out of 20. Only 20 rounds to reach level 2. My crazy idea worked. I could use the fertility center to rapidly multiply my offspring count and trigger system rewards, without waiting 9 months each time. The system counted conception, not birth. This was the breakthrough I needed. My calisthenics highway had ended, but now a new road was open. Back home, Bai Muxi asked how it went. I showed her the 5,000 credits on my terminal. She was surprised but not convinced. Then I handed her the official gene potential certificate stamped by the center. 9.5%. She stared at the number. Her hands trembled. Her voice shook. How? How is this possible? I held her close and gave her the excuse I'd prepared. I don't know, honestly. Maybe you're my good luck charm. Ever since we got together, it's like something clicked. Training just works now. I improve every day. It was half true. And rare cases of sudden awakening did exist in this world, so it wasn't completely unbelievable. She stood there biting her lip, chest heaving, cycling through shock, disbelief, and wild excitement. Then her eyes went sharp with determination. She grabbed my hands. Why didn't you tell me sooner? You have 9.5% potential and you're wasting it farming? That's criminal. Tomorrow. We're signing you up for university tomorrow. Don't worry about tuition. I'll borrow the money myself. Looking at the fire in Bai Muxi's eyes, I felt something deep stir inside me. 2 months ago, she'd agreed to be my partner mainly because I promised to support her university dream. Now, the moment she learned I had top-tier potential, her first instinct wasn't jealousy. It was to pour everything she had into helping me. Even with 900,000 in debt, she was ready to borrow more for my sake. I pulled her close. Having you say that means more than anything. She pounded my chest lightly. You idiot. Why didn't you tell me sooner? University is expensive, but once you're in, there are plenty of ways to earn it back. I joked. Worst case, I'll keep selling my genetic material. Her face went bright red, and she punched me again. Then she grabbed her terminal and started typing frantically. The registration deadline for private martial arts universities was the day after tomorrow at 5 o'clock. No time to waste. Registration cost 100,000 credits across the board. After that, there's a screening exam. Your score determines which universities accept you and what scholarships you get. She said with my 9.5% potential, I could easily get into a mid-tier university with a half-tuition scholarship. Lower-tier schools might waive everything, but the teaching quality isn't worth it. I asked about top-tier schools. She said the 10 best private universities would accept me, but forget about scholarships. Those spots go to true prodigies who became martial artists before even graduating high school. Kids backed by wealthy families who don't care about tuition. They choose schools based on mentors, resources, and connections. That was a world I'd never known existed. My ordinary public high school celebrated just having a few quasi-martial artists. The geniuses she described were in an entirely different universe. She snapped me back to reality. Stop overthinking. None of that matters right now. We need 100,000 for registration. Let's figure it out. I hesitated. You still owe 900,000, she smiled. Not worried, but determined. Those are interest-free loans. And I've saved up 50,000 credits. My heart clenched. That 50,000 was supposed to be for her own tuition. Her own dream. And she was handing it to me without a second thought. Even with her money, we'd still be short. Registration alone was 100,000, and then 100,000 per year after that. We'd have to bet on winning a scholarship. But looking at her unwavering eyes, my blood started burning too. Why not bet? I had 9.5% gene potential and a system that defied all logic. If I couldn't even muster this much courage, I had no business dreaming of becoming strong. Let's do it, I said firmly. I've saved about 10,000 from work. We'll borrow the remaining 40,000 as a consumer loan. She nodded and was already transferring money before I could say another word. My terminal chimed, 50,000 credits received. Hurry, register now. Don't miss the deadline. Looking at that number on the screen, I felt my heart being squeezed tight. All her savings, all her trust. I took a deep breath, pushed every ounce of emotion and determination down into my core, and nodded. I took out a 50,000 credit consumer loan, the maximum my job allowed, and combined it with Bai Muxi's 50,000. Then I opened the education department's registration portal, verified my identity, uploaded my gene potential certificate, and paid 100,000 credits. Registration successful. I was officially signed up for the private martial arts university screening exam. I had about 10,000 left, and 50,000 in new debt. I asked Bai Muxi what the exam involved. She checked the latest information. Things had changed a lot since her time 8 years ago. Back then, it was simple physical tests, punch force, speed, reflexes, mental strength. Schools just picked students from the data. Her face went pale as she read further. It's a combat exam now. They send all the candidates into an underground city dungeon with monsters. You're ranked by how fast you clear it. And that's just the first stage. Later stages are classified. She couldn't believe how competitive things had gotten. I pulled her close and grinned. Bring it on. Who's scared? My confidence was contagious. She nodded firmly, eyes blazing. Right. The stronger you are, the higher your rank, the better the school, the bigger the rewards. I immediately called Supervisor Zhang and requested unpaid leave. He sighed and wished me luck. By regulation, placed workers who pursue further education can hold their position for up to 2 years. After I hung up, he probably told everyone in his office about another naive kid chasing impossible dreams. The usual comments, he'll come crawling back, and young people never learn. I didn't care. Bai Muxi offered to coach me on the 8 treasures art. I turned her down. Her method was precise and exhausting. My lazy technique, just going through the motions loosely, filled the progress bar just the same, used far less energy, and let me train twice as fast. So the training room became my stage for the world's ugliest martial arts practice. My 8 treasures art looked like a drunk man swatting at invisible flies. Bai Muxi watched from the side, her brow twisted in pain. She desperately wanted to grab me and shout that I was doing everything wrong. But then she remembered. This wrong method had taken me to 9.5% gene potential in 2 months. She'd spent 8 years reaching the same level. Maybe geniuses really do train differently, she thought, and stopped trying to correct me. Even with the lazy method, The 8 treasures art drained far more energy than calisthenics ever did. But I pushed through the night. 15 rounds done. Progress, 15 out of 20. Just 5 more. Dawn light crept through the curtains. Bai Muxi shuffled out of the bedroom, rubbing her eyes. She saw me still training, drenched in sweat, standing in a puddle on the floor with salt crystals forming where earlier sweat had dried. You didn't sleep at all? I was too deep in my zone to hear her at first. When I finally paused after one more round, gasping, voice raw, I managed. Once I started, I just couldn't stop. I looked terrible, soaked through, legs shaking, bloodshot eyes. But inside those eyes burned an unquenchable fire. I was staring at that invisible progress bar, squeezing every last drop from my body. Bai Muxi saw the state I was in and quickly made breakfast before leaving for work. She raised her little fist at the door. You can do it, then reminded me to rest and headed to her teaching job. After she left, I forced myself through one more round. Then I dragged myself to the table and devoured every bite of the breakfast she'd made. A short rest, then back on my feet. 3 more. 3 agonizing hours later, just as I was about to black out, the system chimed. 8 treasures art upgraded to level 2. Gene potential 0.2%. Gene potential 9.7%. Physical 93. Spirit 93. Spirit energy 20. 8 treasures art level 2. Next upgrade at 40 rounds. Children 2 in progress. Energy exploded through my body like a volcano. My dead arms surged with power. My bones crackled, my muscles tightened. Not only did the exhaustion vanish, I felt stronger than ever before. Just 0.3% away from becoming a real martial artist. I'm starving. The front door clicked open. Bai Muxi walked in carrying bags of groceries. She froze when she saw me standing there radiating energy, looking completely different from the wreck she'd left that morning. Wife, I'm so hungry. She snapped out of it and rushed to the kitchen. 20 minutes later, she brought out a plate of stir-fried meat. I inhaled it along with a huge bowl of rice before she could even sit down. When she came back with the second dish, the first plate was already licked clean. She stared in disbelief. She immediately understood. This was the body demanding fuel after extreme training. She ran back to the kitchen and cooked everything she'd planned for lunch and dinner combined. I ate 3 or 4 times my normal amount, emptied the entire rice cooker, cleared 4 big plates, and finally let out a satisfied burp. She wasn't upset at all. She smiled and told me to go sleep. I'd been up all night. I stumbled to the bedroom and was out instantly. I slept until evening. At dinner, I ate double my normal portion again. Bai Muxi sat across from me, watching quietly, her mind clearly working overtime. I could tell she was thinking about something serious. She was remembering what her university teacher once said. When a martial artist's body suddenly demands massive amounts of food, it means the body is gathering energy for a breakthrough. If you seize that critical window, train hard, and eat well, you could advance to the next level within 1 to 2 years. She stared at me wolfing down food, and a thought she almost didn't dare believe took root in her mind. Was Lin Qiye already in that critical period? Could he really become a martial artist within 2 years? Her heart was pounding. 3 days later, mid-training, my terminal buzzed with a notification. I ignored it. I was in the zone, energy surging inside me, pushing against an invisible wall. 2 more hours of grinding, and the system chimed. 8 treasures, art level 3. Gene potential 0.2%. 9.9%. Physical, 95. Spirit, 95. Spirit energy, 21. I could barely breathe. Just 0.1% away from becoming a real martial artist. The breakthrough left me ravenous again. Bai Muxi had a huge meal ready. She'd gotten used to my monster appetite by now. I ate while checking my terminal. The notification was from the exam center. The screening test would be held in Tiantai City, the provincial capital. I had 9 days to report in, register, and get my exam pass. That evening, Bai Muxi and I went for our usual walk. We ran into Wang Hao and Zhang Qian. Wang Hao hadn't seen me at the bus stop lately and wondered where I'd been. I told him straight. I quit the farm. I'm going to take the private university entrance exam. His smile froze. Zhang Qian immediately congratulated me with wide eyes. Wang Hao stammered out some compliments about me being impressive. After we walked away, I'm sure Zhang Qian gushed about how rich I must be to afford private university. Wang Hao knew better. He knew my family had nothing. His only explanation was that my beautiful wife was bankrolling me. When Zhang Qian jokingly asked if he wanted to go to private university too, and whether she'd fund him, she rolled her eyes and shut him down instantly. The money I earn from having babies isn't for your daydreams. That's the thing about comparison. Without it, you're content. The moment you see someone else's different life, the dissatisfaction grows like weeds. 2 days later, Bai Muxi and I were packing for the trip to Tiantai City when my terminal rang. A video call from Mom. Her worried face appeared on screen. "Qiye, how have you been? I heard you signed up for private university." Her tone was half question, half accusation. Mom's face appeared on screen, already upset. "Qiye, I heard you signed up for private university." Before I could even respond, she was yelling about how foolish I was. Dad shoved his way into frame, furious. "Don't you dare ask us for money. We don't have a single credit." I hadn't planned on asking them for anything. That's exactly why I hadn't told them. Somehow the news got out anyway. Mom kept going. "Your gene potential is only 5%. What's the point of private university? You're throwing money away. Just go back to the farm." I snapped. "My gene potential is 9.9% now. I'm about to become a martial artist. My partner supports this decision, and we're not asking you for anything." Dead silence. They froze like someone hit pause. Then Mom recovered and accused me of lying. I was done explaining. "This has nothing to do with you. We're leaving for Tiantai City." I hung up. Bai Muxi had watched the whole thing. She seemed surprised. My parents didn't believe in me at all. She mentioned that her own parents at least supported her for 4 years before giving up. By comparison, they were actually better. Then she hesitated and asked, "Should we visit my parents before we leave?" I was surprised. She'd told me they wanted nothing to do with her after she chose martial arts over their plans. Her family was nothing like mine. They were a proper martial arts household, middle class, living in a villa district. In a world that worships strength, everything revolves around talent. Bai Muxi had a younger sister who was more gifted, so all the family resources shifted that way. Bai Muxi became invisible. She gave me a shrewd look. "Things are different now. You have 9.9% potential. You're about to become a martial artist. A son-in-law like that? No martial arts family would ignore that. We might even get some loot out of it." I understood instantly. This wasn't just a family visit. It was a power move. Showing her parents that the daughter they'd given up on had found a partner better than they ever imagined. "Let's go," I said without hesitation. Meanwhile, back at my parents' house, Dad was slamming the table about me hanging up on him, swearing he'd never lend me a cent. Mom was teary-eyed, blaming Bai Muxi for corrupting her good son. My 3 youngest siblings stood behind them in silence. Bai Muxi's family lived in quiet garden estates, a villa neighborhood on the city's edge with security at the gate and rows of modern townhouses. The gap between our families hit me the moment we drove in. Their home was a 3-story townhouse, sleek and spacious. The door opened automatically as we approached. A well-dressed, refined-looking middle-aged man stood in the doorway with a distant smile. "Muxi, you're back." That was her father, Bai Zhenfeng. His eyes lingered on her briefly, then shifted to me with a quiet, measuring gaze. "Dad," she said flatly. Then she introduced me. "Hello, Father." I kept my tone respectful but steady. He nodded and said, "Come in. Your uncle and cousin happen to be visiting." "Uncle and cousin?" I looked at Bai Muxi. She shrugged. She hadn't expected them either. In the living room, Bai Muxi's mother, Lu Yuqin, sat on the sofa looking elegant and well-maintained. She barely glanced at her daughter. Just a nod. 2 guests were also there. Bai Muxi's uncle, Bai Zhenyun, a sharp-looking man, and his son Bai Mujia, a young guy about my age with an arrogant expression. They all exchanged polite but cold greetings. The distance between Bai Muxi and her family was painfully obvious. They weren't outright hostile, but I could feel they considered her irrelevant. Her father mentioned that uncle and cousin were here to discuss Mujia's trip to Tiantai City for the university screening exam. Bai Muxi's eyes flickered. Calmly, she said, "What a coincidence. My partner Lin Qiye also registered. We're heading there in the next couple of days too." The room went still. Every pair of eyes locked onto me. Her mother spoke first, frowning. "Private university? Where did you get the money?" They all clearly assumed I was some broke nobody gambling on loans. Exactly the kind of loser they'd expect their abandoned daughter to end up with. Bai Muxi's face darkened, but I just smiled. I reached into my bag, pulled out the official gene potential certificate with its government stamp, and placed it on the coffee table, sliding it toward them. Father, mother, uncle. This is my recent evaluation. Please take a look. Silence. Then they read the number at the bottom. 9.9%. Age, 19. The room went completely dead. Every single person was frozen, minds blank. 9.9% gene potential at 19 years old. One tiny step from becoming a real martial artist. Their family's proudest achievement was Bai Muxi's younger sister, Bai Muxi, who'd hit 8.5% at the same age and only just became a martial artist after 3 more years of university training. I was already beyond her starting point. Uncle Jinyun recovered first. His cold, dismissive attitude vanished instantly, replaced by eager warmth. He jumped up, rushed over to me, and practically gushed. Nephew, your talent is. You're a dragon among men. He immediately insisted we travel to Tiantai City together with Mujia. We're family. Let us take care of you. Bai Muxi coolly declined. No need to trouble yourself, uncle. No trouble at all. It's settled. Just then, a cheerful voice came from the stairs. Sis, you're home. A girl who looked like a younger, bouncier version of Bai Muxi came bounding down, her 12th sister, Bai Muxi. She wore trendy sportswear with a high ponytail, full of youthful energy. She grabbed Bai Muxi's arm affectionately, then turned to me with curious eyes. Hi, brother-in-law. I'm Bai Muxi. Nice to meet you, Muxi. At least someone in this family was genuinely warm. Meanwhile, Cousin Mujia stood there like he'd been struck by lightning. His arrogant expression was gone, replaced by pure shock and barely concealed jealousy. He stared at me, then at the certificate, then back at me. He was from the top class at a district key high school. Their so-called martial arts genius, the student who'd ranked first in the entire school, had a gene potential of 9%. That achievement had made the kid a campus legend. And here I was, nearly a full percent higher. In his mind, I wasn't just talented. I was a monster. Cousin Mujia looked like his entire worldview had cracked. He'd been proud of his 6.8% gene potential, considered himself above average. Now compared to me, he was a firefly next to the moon. Little sister Muxi bounced over to the certificate, read the number, and squealed. Wow, 9.9%. Brother-in-law, you're amazing. Pure, genuine admiration. No complicated feelings, just a kid impressed by a big number. Bai Muxi's mother stared at the certificate, then at her daughter, then at me, completely bewildered. How did her talentless daughter land someone like this? Her father recovered fastest. He took a calm sip of tea and said, Jinyun is right. We're family. Travel together. I smiled and agreed. I knew they were trying to get closer to me now. I didn't mind. Better to have allies than enemies, especially when it's my wife's family. Plus, they'd be covering travel and accommodation costs. I'd heard Tiantai City was expensive. That night, they insisted we stay over. I went to practice in their basement training room, fully equipped, way better than any public gym. But 2 little heads appeared at the door, Muxi and her youngest sibling, 7-year-old Bai Muxi, who peeked out shyly from behind his sister. Brother-in-law, with kids watching, I couldn't use my lazy technique. I had to do proper, textbook 8 treasures art. More tiring, but it looked impressive. The 2 of them watched like I was performing magic. The next morning, the parents' attitude had completely transformed. Warm, attentive, practically falling over themselves. Her mother held Bai Muxi's hands like a loving parent, as if yesterday's coldness never happened. In the car heading home, Bai Muxi leaned close and whispered, Dad said he'll cover your 100,000 registration fee. And future tuition too. My eyes went wide. She grinned. See? We got the loot. We sure did, I nodded emphatically. The power of a 9.9% certificate was something else. Half an hour after we got home, Uncle Jinyun called. Soon a luxury 7-seat hover vehicle pulled up outside our apartment. He waved us in with a huge smile. Let's head straight to Tiantai City. During the ride, he casually asked about my background. When he learned I came from an ordinary working family, no resources, no connections, both he and Mujia were stunned. Mujia said sincerely, Brother-in-law, you're way more impressive than all those rich kids in my class. They're propped up by family money. You got here on pure talent. I've never seen anything like it. I laughed and accepted the compliment, though inside I thought, Kid, you're one of those rich kids too. Then Mujia asked what brand of nutrition supplements I used for training. Some expensive brand called Titan Force or Galaxy Spring. I'd never used any supplements in my life. All my recovery came from Bai Muxi's home cooking. So I said with a straight face, I use Love brand nutrition. Bai Muxi's face went bright red. She pinched my waist hard and glared at me. Uncle and Mujia exchanged confused looks. Love brand? Is that some new premium product? They'd never heard of it. 2 hours later, the car slowed as an enormous city came into view. Skyscrapers rising in a pyramid formation, shorter on the edges, towering at the center, piercing the clouds. Hovering traffic lanes crisscrossed the sky like a web of light. Neon signs sparkled everywhere like stars. I stared out the window, breathless. So this was Tiantai City, the provincial capital. The hover car weaved through sky-level traffic lanes and landed in front of a massive skyscraper called Tianyue International Hotel, in the 4th or 5th ring of the city, at least 200 floors tall. Uncle Jinyun had booked everything in advance, 2 luxury suites side by side. Having money really is nice. We ate lunch at the hotel's rooftop revolving restaurant. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see the outer districts stretching below. I wondered what the restaurants in the inner rings looked like, gazing down at us. Uncle kept piling food on my plate, chatting warmly, clearly investing in a future powerhouse. Mujia was humble and kept asking me training questions. I mostly made things up, but he listened like I was sharing ancient secrets. After lunch, we took the hotel's car to the provincial exam center on the other side of the city. A huge, imposing complex. The plaza out front was absolutely packed. Candidates and families from all over the star system, shoulder to shoulder. The air buzzed with nervous excitement. This was the first gate on the road to becoming strong. We squeezed into the registration hall, found our windows, showed IDs, confirmed information, and got our electronic exam passes. Mine showed the test date, September 1st, 9 a.m. 5 days away. As we were leaving, someone called out to Mujia, a tall, handsome guy in designer clothes with a group of equally well-dressed friends. Rich kids from his school. They chatted briefly and mentioned heading to a store called Shinong Pharmacy. Mujia excitedly suggested we check it out too. They sell combat supplements. I was confused. Bai Muxi explained. Wealthy candidates buy all kinds of potions for the dungeon exam. Instant stamina recovery, temporary strength boosts, healing sprays. She said that given my level, I should aim to go as far as possible in the exam. So these supplies were important for me too. Before I could respond, Mujia cut in, shaking his head at Bai Muxi. Sis, that's outdated thinking from 8 years ago. Things are way more competitive now. He started counting on his fingers. Energy drinks and nutrient solutions are the bare minimum. Everyone has those. Then there are antidotes, quick clotting sprays, and more. Without them, one bite from a poisonous creature or a minor wound could knock you out of the exam entirely. You need all of it just to survive the first stage. I was shocked. So whoever has the most money gets first place. Mujia looked at me like I was from another planet and said matter-of-factly, if you don't have money, why bother practicing martial arts? We left the exam center and headed to a flashy store called Shinong Pharmacy on a nearby commercial street. Inside, glass cases displayed rows of glowing potions with holographic descriptions floating above them. Burst Blood Number 1. Minor Explosive Power Boost for 3 minutes, 1,000 credits. Swift Number 1. Minor Speed Boost for 5 minutes, 1,000 credits. The prices climbed fast. Number 2 was 2,000, all the way up to number 9 at 9,999. I whispered to Bai Muxi that maybe we didn't need these. Then Mujia spotted his classmate Li Minggao and his rich friends at the checkout, each carrying a fancy gift box. Before Mujia could even finish describing what they'd bought, Uncle Jinyun's eyes sharpened. He immediately declared he was buying 2 of the premium gift sets, one for Mujia, one for me. 50,000 credits each. Mujia tried to say that wasn't what the others had bought, but his father silenced him with a look. Bai Muxi tried to refuse politely, but Uncle waved her off. This isn't a gift, it's an investment. In your future, just focus on the exam and get a good result. That's all the payback I need. I understood perfectly. To him, spending 50,000 on a future martial artist's goodwill was the deal of a lifetime. Back at the hotel, I set down the gift box and did some math. At my current pace, I could definitely level up the 8 treasures art one more time within these 5 days. That would push my gene potential past 10%. I could become a real martial artist before the exam even started. That thought set me on fire. Over the next 4 nights, I turned the hotel suite into a training ground. Neon lights from Tiantai City's endless skyline cast shifting patterns through the windows as I practiced round after round, drenched in sweat. Bai Muxi came out the first night and almost told me to rest, but she saw the flame in my eyes and swallowed her words. She knew I was pushing for a breakthrough, and any interruption could break my momentum. Instead, she sat quietly on the sofa, dimmed her terminal, and started researching how to nourish someone during a breakthrough period, high-energy recovery meals, gentle herbal recipes for stabilizing mental strength. She supported me in silence. For the next days, she became my personal caretaker, cooking special meals, calculating my energy needs, even ordering expensive herbal supplements. I trained 15 rounds a day, rested properly between sessions, and kept my body in peak condition. No point burning out right before the exam. By the fourth evening, one day before the test, my progress bar read, 8 treasures art level 3, 59 out of 60. One more round. Bai Muxi sat on the sofa, and I could tell she sensed something. The pressure radiating from my body was making even her, a quasi-martial artist, feel uneasy. She couldn't believe it. Was I actually about to break through? To 10%? To become a real martial artist? It felt impossible to her. She'd spent 8 years at university. Going from 8.5% to 9.5% alone had taken her nearly 3 years. No matter how talented I was, this speed shouldn't be possible. And yet, there it was, 1 round away. One last time, I growled through clenched teeth and began the final round. When the last movement finished, my body froze. Then everything exploded. Energy erupted from somewhere deep inside me. Not a gentle stream like before, but a volcanic explosion. A thunderclap echoed in my mind. 8 treasures, art level 4. Gene potential 0.2%. Gene potential 10.1%. I heard something shatter, like an invisible wall inside me cracking apart. And then the world changed. My bones crackled like popping corn, becoming denser, harder. Every muscle fiber felt reforged. Hot blood roared through my veins like a river. All the exhaustion vanished instantly, replaced by power I'd never imagined. Everything became impossibly clear. I could see individual dust particles floating in the air, each with its own shape and trajectory. I could see light bending through the window glass. I could hear Bai Muxi's racing heartbeat from across the room. My skin felt every tiny shift in airflow, every fraction of temperature difference. Physical, 100. Spirit, 100. Spirit energy, 50, more than doubled. This was what it meant to be a martial artist. A completely different level of existence. Qiye. Bai Muxi's trembling voice pulled me back. She could feel it. As a quasi-martial artist at 9.5%, she understood better than anyone what had just happened. The energy coming off me wasn't strong anymore. It was overwhelming. Her instincts told her to be afraid. I broke through, I said, smiling. I took a single step and appeared right in front of her. So fast it looked like teleportation. She stumbled back, startled. I gently pulled her into my arms. I made it. She pressed against my chest, feeling my heartbeat, my warmth, this new terrifying strength. Then it sank in. The thing she'd chased for 8 years, spending her youth, her family's patience, nearly $1 million in debt. I'd just done it. Right here, in a hotel room, in a matter of weeks. Was she jealous? Of course. But more than that, she was proud. Proud of her husband. She looked up at me, eyes shining, stood on her tiptoes, and kissed me. Deep, fierce, full of everything she felt. Pride, joy, love. The next morning I woke feeling completely refreshed. Bai Muxi was still sleeping beside me, a sweet smile on her lips. I kissed her forehead, and she slowly opened her eyes. When we stepped into the hallway, Uncle Jinyun and Mujie came out too. Uncle greeted me cheerfully, but the moment our eyes met, his smile stiffened. Mujie rubbed his eyes. Something about me was different, my gaze sharper, my presence heavier, an invisible pressure radiating naturally. They didn't realize I'd broken through. They just thought I was fired up for the exam. At 8:30, we arrived at the exam center. Tens of thousands of candidates filled the enormous plaza, organized by exam number. Loudspeakers announced rules and instructions. Bai Muxi and Uncle Jinyun stood with the families seeing us off. Bai Muxi mouthed the words, "Husband, you can do it." I smiled and nodded, completely calm. At 8:50, a long horn sounded. Massive metal gates slowly ground open. All candidates, please enter the examination grounds. Underground City Number 1. Over 1 million examinees surged forward like a tide into the dark entrance. I took a deep breath and stepped in with them. My eyes were steady, my mind clear. Only one thought: the exam begins now. Stepping through the entrance, I found myself on a massive underground platform, big enough for 1 million people, with cold metal floors, industrial lights blazing overhead, and 100-meter-tall steel gate sealed shut at the far end. Mujia pulled me through the crowd to where his friends were gathered. Everyone was nervous, chatting about how this year's exam was supposed to be even harder. Then I noticed something interesting. Li Qiye and his rich friends, those confident guys from yesterday, were standing nearby, but their attitude was completely different. They were bowing slightly, smiling eagerly, trying to get close to another group without being too obvious. The group they were fawning over stood apart from everyone else. Men and women, all calm and detached, radiating an aura that screamed, "Don't approach." They looked like they existed in a different world from the rest of us. "Who are they?" I asked Mujia. His voice dropped to a whisper, full of awe. "That's the genius class from First High. Lei Qianjun, the tall, cold one in white. Su Qingying, the sharp-looking girl with short hair. Yan Feilong, sitting on the ground over there. They're the absolute top students in our entire star system." He'd seen them once at some inter-school tournament. My old high school probably didn't even qualify for that. I asked the obvious question: "Are they all martial artists?" "Every single one," Mujia confirmed. They all became martial artists before the exam. That hit me hard. While I'd been struggling over a 100,000 credit registration fee, these kids my age had already crossed the threshold I'd just barely reached. Then, boom. A deafening crash shook the entire platform. Everyone went silent. On a raised stage at the center stood a man over 3 meters tall, muscles like steel cables, bronze skin gleaming under the lights. And perched casually on his enormous shoulders sat a woman in a tight red combat suit, with matching red hair and a dangerous smile. "Silence," the giant bellowed. His voice echoed everywhere. "I'm your first examiner. Namesley Senator, call me Strong Stone." The woman on his shoulders spoke next, her voice sweet but lazy. "I'm Deng Hong." She scanned the crowd and explained the rules. "Simple. Follow us. The underground city has countless branching paths. If you lose us, that's your problem." She paused, smiling wider. "Any injuries, treat them yourself. If it's too much, call for rescue on your terminal. But calling rescue means your exam is over." "Understood." The 100-meter gate behind them began grinding open, metal screeching against metal. Cold, damp air rushed out, carrying the smell of earth and decay. "The exam begins." Before she finished speaking, the giant crouched and launched himself like a cannonball over our heads, crashing straight through the gate with the woman still sitting on his shoulders, waving at us as they flew past. A moment of stunned silence. Then someone screamed, "Follow them!" Hundreds of thousands of examinees surged forward like a flood, pouring into the darkness beyond the gate. The moment the gate opened, chaos erupted. Tens of thousands of examinees stampeded toward the single exit like panicked animals. I watched the genius class move first. The girl called Su Qingying tapped her foot on someone's shoulder and floated up, leaping across people's heads like she weighed nothing, gliding to the front in seconds. Yan Feilong spread his arms and bulldozed a path through the crowd at terrifying speed. Then it got ugly. Lei Qianjun and his group released an invisible shockwave. Bodies flew in every direction, people screaming, spitting blood, bones cracking. A 10-meter circle cleared around them instantly. Li Qiye and his rich friends were caught in the blast too, but they recovered fast. They'd had healing potions ready in their pockets. They chugged them without looking, shoved weaker students aside, stepped on fallen bodies, and forced their way forward. This wasn't an exam. This was a brutal survival contest. No rules, no fairness. The strong crushed the weak, and the examiners clearly allowed it. Before I could process it all, the surging crowd was pressing in on us. Mujia went pale beside me, fumbling for his potions. I put my hand on his shoulder. "Stay behind me." I pulled him close and faced the oncoming wall of people. No fancy footwork, no clever techniques. I'm a martial artist now. I have raw, explosive power. So I'd use the simplest method possible, charge straight through. "Sorry, everyone. I took one step forward and unleashed my energy. The people in front of me collapsed outward like dominoes, clearing a straight path to the gate. Cursing erupted from the crowd. One big guy, muscular, angry face, recovered fast and charged straight at me with a massive fist aimed at my head. He was clearly confident in his strength. I punched back. No technique, just a straight fist. Our knuckles met. Crack. His arm snapped. White bone punched through his skin. He flew backward, spewing blood, crashed into the crowd over 10 meters away. His arm bent at an impossible angle. I didn't even look at him. I just kept walking forward, calm as if I'd swatted a fly. Behind me, Muji had seen the whole thing. His jaw was practically on the floor. "B brother-in-law, you're that strong." He knew I was powerful, but one punch sending a guy flying with shattered bones. That was beyond anything he'd imagined. He swallowed hard, then grinned. Following me, he had nothing to fear. It wasn't just Mujia who was shocked. Dozens of nearby examinees saw me bulldoze through the crowd, and the smart ones immediately fell in behind me, riding the path I'd cleared. I pushed forward relentlessly. Anyone in my way got shoved aside. Gradually, I broke through the worst of the jam and reached open space where the real competitors were running. The first group, following close behind the examiners. I told Mujia to keep up, but he couldn't match my speed. He fell behind into the second group. I felt bad, but there was nothing I could do. When I joined the front runners, the genius class noticed me immediately. Lei Qianjun glanced over with cold eyes. New face. Interesting. Su Qingying studied me with sharp phoenix eyes. Strong, but rough. No proper training. Yin Feilong just snorted. As long as he stays out of our way. They acknowledged me, but didn't consider me a real threat. To them, I was a wild card, powerful but unpolished. And honestly, they weren't wrong. I observed them carefully too. Their energy was refined, controlled, more precise than mine in every way. These were people who'd trained with the best teachers since childhood, mastering advanced techniques I'd never even heard of. If we fought at equal power, my empty toolbox of zero combat skills would be a serious problem. So I kept a smart distance, not falling behind, not pushing to the front. No need to pick fights with monsters this early. An hour passed. The underground tunnels seemed endless. We'd covered over 100 kilometers, and still nothing but darkness ahead. Examiner Li Sun ran like it was a casual stroll, the red-haired woman still lounging on his shoulders. What kind of power level was that? Then things got interesting. Weaker runners in the first group started fading. Heavy breathing, slowing down, sneaking sips of potions. Some got desperate and turned dirty. One guy ahead of me suddenly spun around and threw a heavy punch at my face. His plan was to knock me back so he could catch his breath. Wrong target. I'd been watching everyone for the past hour. I saw it coming before his fist was halfway there. I shifted right, let it whistle past my face, and surged forward past him without breaking stride. He stumbled from his own momentum and fell further behind, screaming in frustration. That triggered a chain reaction. More attacks, cheap shots, even small hidden weapons flying through the crowd. But my senses as a martial artist were razor sharp. I could track everything within dozens of meters. I dodged left, ducked right, accelerated through gaps. Like a fish slipping through a net, untouchable. These attackers were quasi-martial artists at best. 8% or 9% gene potential. Strong. But compared to a real martial artist's endurance, they were running on fumes while I still had reserves. After dodging a few more waves, I stopped holding back. I pushed my speed up another gear and shot forward, leaving the troublemakers in the dust. I settled back into position right behind the genius class. Su Qingying glanced back. When she saw me there, breathing steady, completely unfazed, genuine surprise flickered across her sharp eyes for the first time. Him again. Su Qingying was surprised I'd made it back to the front after all that chaos. She glanced at the second group far behind. Some familiar faces, former genius class students who'd been kicked out for not keeping up. The gap between quasi-martial artists and real martial artists was brutally clear in a long-distance test like this. The weak get eliminated. That's just how it works. She looked at me with genuine curiosity for the first time. Who was this wild card? Then Examiner Deng Hong laughed from atop Li Sen's shoulders, her voice echoing through the tunnel. Warm-ups over, kids. Now comes the sprint. First 100 to reach the finish get maximum bonus, 100 points. After that, every 100 places cost you 1 point. Past 10,000th place. No bonus at all. She leaped off Li Sin's shoulders like a cat, hit the ground running, and exploded forward at impossible speed, a red streak vanishing into the darkness. Li Sun slowed down just enough for us to barely keep pace. I saw Deng Hong take the left fork at the junction ahead. If I lost sight of her, I'd be wandering this maze forever. Out of the thousands still in the first group, maybe only 1,000 could match her speed. And only the fastest 100 would get full marks. No more holding back. I unleashed everything. Energy erupted from my legs, and I shot forward like an arrow. The genius class noticed immediately. Lei Qianjuan's cold eyes flickered with surprise. Su Qingying whipped her head around in shock. But everyone was going all out now. The tunnel narrowed from 1,000-person width to barely 400. Competition turned savage. I tried to slip through a gap on the right side of Lei Qianjun and Su Qingying. A figure cut across my path like a ghost. Yin Feilong, sneering. "This isn't your place, wild boy." His fist came at me. Looked simple, like the big guy's punch from before. But every instinct in my body screamed danger. This was completely different. His fist carried a compressed, invisible force that warped the air itself. This wasn't just strength, this was technique. Real technique. I twisted left, trying to dodge like before. He smirked. Sky shatter fist, boom. A visible shockwave fanned out from his fist in a wide arc. Even though I'd dodged the direct hit, the blast wave slammed into my chest and arms full force. Like getting hit by an armored truck. I grunted and flew backward, crashing hard onto the metal floor with a deafening clang. Searing pain. My arms went numb, felt like the bones were cracking. Blood rushed to my throat. I barely kept it down. So this was the genius class's real power. I scrambled to my feet instantly. No time to lie there. The spot where I'd fallen was immediately slammed by another attacker. If I'd stayed even a second longer, I'd have been calling for rescue. That hit from Yin Feilong taught me a brutal lesson. The gap between us wasn't about raw power. It was about how to use it. I had 10% gene potential and 100 physical stats, but my force was scattered, unfocused. He could compress his power into a single concentrated blast, multiplying its impact many times over. He didn't even look back. I was already dealt with in his mind. Not over yet. I swallowed the blood rising in my throat and accelerated. Then I remembered Uncle Jinyun's gift box. I pulled out a needle from my tactical pouch and jabbed it into my screaming right arm without looking. Blood revival number 5. Cool liquid spread through my arm like rain on dry earth. The tearing pain faded fast. Still numb, but functional. A female examinee rushed at me. Eyes hungry. She saw I was hurt and wanted to finish me off. One less competitor means one higher ranking. I chugged a nutrient bottle, then whipped the empty container at her face. She flinched, thinking it was a weapon or poison, and dodged sideways. That half second was all I needed. I was gone. I realized something watching the others. Almost everyone in the first group moved in packs of 3 to 5, classmates covering each other. I was completely alone. The only lone wolf in this race. My advantage, a real martial artist's body, stamina, and recovery that outclassed every quasi-martial artist around me. My disadvantage, zero combat technique. My ordinary high school taught nothing but basic calisthenics. All I had was raw instinct. So that's what I used. Dodge, sprint, get hit, inject medicine, throw the empty bottle as a distraction, sprint again. Over and over. Every time someone's fist grazed my back or a shockwave clipped me, I jabbed another needle and kept running. I stopped trying to catch the genius class. Instead, I focused on passing everyone I could, one person at a time, each one fueling my determination. Hours passed in the endless dark tunnel. Then, blinding light ahead. The finish line. I could see Lei Qianjun, Su Qingying, and Yin Feilong already standing past it, looking bored, as if the whole thing had been a warm-up. Other examinees were trickling through. I squeezed every last drop of energy from my body. My arms were beyond pain, just numb. I let out a roar, abandoned all defense, and charged straight through a wall of 7 or 8 examinees blocking my path. Like a raging bull, I took their hits head-on, smashed through them, and burst across the finish line. I collapsed onto the platform, gasping, drenched in sweat, arms shaking. Examinee Lin Qiye. Rank, 498. Congratulations on completing Stage 1. Bonus points, 95, for 198th place. 95 points. I sat on the ground and grinned. It was ugly getting here, but the result wasn't bad at all. Behind me, the examinees I'd bulldozed through at the last second were glaring daggers at me, faces dark with fury. Without my suicide charge, they would have made the top 500. One of them flipped me off, eyes full of venom. I glanced at the guys who'd flipped me off and looked away. Not worth my energy. Examiner Deng Hong announced we'd rest here for 24 hours before stage 2. No going back to the hotel. We'd recover right here on this platform. I looked around. The elite students were already pulling out recovery gear from their packs, specialized nutrients, supplements, even portable energy recovery pods. The gap in resources was everywhere. All I had was my tactical pouch from Uncle Jinyan's gift set. I drank nutrient solution and jabbed another blood revival needle into my aching arms as the first dose wore off. Out of hundreds of thousands of examinees, only the top 10,000 made it through. That's an insane elimination rate. I didn't see Muxi anywhere, not surprising. His gene potential wasn't even quasi-martial-artist level. He never really had a chance. I looked across the platform at Yin Feilong. He met my gaze with cold eyes. I stared back, then calmly looked away. No anger, just clarity. He was stronger in technique. That was a fact. But facts change. I looked down at my bruised, swollen arms and slowly clenched my fists. I need real combat techniques. That was the lesson. Raw power without skill is wasted. If I could learn to focus and channel my strength the way those geniuses did, I could multiply my effectiveness many times over. The 10,000 survivors spread across the platform in clear social layers. At the center, the genius class, meditating, taking glowing pills, surrounded by faint energy auras. Around them, clusters from elite schools, sharing notes and supplies. And at the very edges, the loners, including me. I counted only 5 other solo examinees besides myself, 4 men and 1 woman. With nothing better to do, I sat down and began circulating the 8 treasures art internally. To my surprise, a warm current flowed through my injured arms, slowly dissolving the pain and numbness. Of course, the 8 treasures art and radio calisthenics are both body-strengthening techniques at their core. They don't have flashy attacks, but they nourish and heal the body at a fundamental level. I spent the entire rest period in deep practice. By the time I opened my eyes, my arms had healed about 70%, still a dull ache, but fully functional. My stamina and mental energy were back to peak condition. The timer hit 0. The giant examiner Li Sun stepped forward, his footsteps shaking the platform. Rest time, over, his voice boomed across the space. Stage 2 begins now. Li Sun's cold eyes swept across all 10,000 of us as he explained Stage 2. Behind him, another massive gate opened, revealing not a tunnel but an entire ruined city, collapsed buildings, crumbling towers, a concrete jungle bathed in dim light. Dead and dangerous. Inside this place called Relic City Number 3, there are 1,000 mechanical guardians scattered around. Your job is to hunt them and collect the score badges from inside them. The deeper toward the center you go, the stronger the guardians and the more badges they carry. Each badge was worth 10 points. We had 48 hours. Our final score would combine Stage 1 and Stage 2 results. 1,000 targets. 10,000 examinees. 10 people fighting over each one. Then came the real bombshell. Oh, one more thing. Stealing badges from other examinees is allowed. But if you get seriously hurt, call for rescue immediately. Otherwise, the consequences are yours. The platform erupted. This wasn't an exam. It was a hunting ground where examinees were both hunters and prey. You have 5 minutes to form teams. Then we begin. Instant chaos. Students from the same schools rushed together, forming groups of 5, 10, even dozens. The genius class naturally stayed in their own elite circle. And then there were us, the 6 loners. Me and 5 others who'd made it through Stage 1 completely alone. We stood out like targets. A cool voice spoke beside me. You won't last long alone. I turned. A tall woman with short hair and sharp hawk-like eyes had walked over. Cold presence, no-nonsense attitude. Temporary team, she said bluntly. We're all leftovers. Better to group up than get picked off one by one. I scanned the other 4 loners watching us. All of them had made the top 10,000 as solo fighters. That alone proved their strength and nerve. How do we split things? I asked. She held up 3 fingers. First, no attacking each other. Anyone who backstabs gets destroyed by the rest. Second, whoever kills the guardian keeps the badges. No stealing within the team. Third, you can ask for help in danger, but helping is voluntary. No obligations, cold rules. Realistic rules. No fake promises, no forced loyalty. Exactly the kind of arrangement I could trust. "I'm in," I said. "Me too," rumbled a huge guy built like a steel tower. "Count me in," said a thin, shifty-eyed scout type. Twin brothers exchanged a look and nodded together. "We're in." "Good," the woman said. "I'm Hanyu." "Tai Meng," said the big guy. "Zhao Shu," said the thin one. "Chen Feng," "Chen Yun." The twins. "Call me Shaolin," I said. No need for full names in a temporary squad. 6 lone wolves, thrown together at the last minute. "Time's up," Li Sen's voice thundered. The exam begins. The gate behind us opened fully, revealing the vast dead city. Organized teams poured in like unleashed beasts, racing to claim territory. The genius class shot toward the city center like streaks of light. That's where the strongest guardians and best vantage points would be. Thousands followed. Fights were already breaking out at the edges before people even got settled. "What do we do?" Tai Meng asked, looking at me and Hanyu. I scanned the chaos. "We don't go to the center." "Why not?" "That's where the good stuff is," Zhao Shu protested. "The center is a meat grinder right now. Elite squads fighting for territory, big groups hunting smaller ones. 6 of us walk in there, we vanish without a trace." I pointed to the low, ugly residential ruins at the city's edge. "Our goal is badges, not glory. Start at the edges, fewer targets, but less competition. Survive first, then plan." Everyone agreed instantly. We slipped away from the main crowd like shadows. The ruined city was worse than I expected. Moss-covered walls, rusted hover cars, wind howling through empty windows. We moved in formation, Zhao Shu scouting ahead, Tai Meng and the twins covering the sides, Hanyu and me watching front and back. Zhao Shu returned from an abandoned shopping mall. Clear. No people, no guardians. We moved through the main hall toward the back exit. Then I stopped. My martial artist senses caught something. A faint energy pulse hidden behind collapsed shelving. Something that didn't belong. "There's something here." Nobody else could see anything. I picked up a chunk of concrete and hurled it at the shelves. Bang! Red light flared. The shelves exploded outward and a 2-meter mechanical spider. 6 razor-sharp metal limbs, dark silver body, single glowing red eye, burst out and locked onto us. Intruders detected. Elimination mode activated. "A guardian," Tai Meng growled, excited and tense. But in that same instant, something far more dangerous hit my senses. Not from the front, from behind and both sides. My instinct screamed. The twins struck first. Their friendly faces were gone, replaced by killing intent. 2 fists came at my back and temple simultaneously. From the other side, Hanyu, the calm, rational woman who'd proposed our alliance, whipped a devastating kick at my legs, sealing every escape route. 3 attackers, perfectly timed, hitting the exact moment everyone's attention was on the mechanical guardian. They'd planned this from the start, but they underestimated me. I'd never fully trusted any of them. My warrior senses had been monitoring everyone since we formed the team. I'd felt their subtle tension, their too careful positioning. Instead of blocking or retreating, which would have trapped me between them and the guardian, I did something none of them expected. I charged straight at the mechanical spider. "Is he insane?" I could practically hear them thinking. At the last possible moment, I dropped into a sliding tackle, scraping along the ground, threading myself through the narrow gap beneath the spider's 6 blade-like legs. I shot out behind it in a flash. The spider's targeting system lost me. Its red eye flickered, scanning for the nearest threat, and locked onto the 3 traitors standing right in front of it, fists and legs still extended from their failed ambush. New threat targets detected. Elimination mode activated. 6 gleaming metal limbs rose like unsheathed swords, aimed straight at them. The mechanical spider's 6-bladed limbs tore through the air at the 3 traitors. Hanyu reacted fastest, leaping backward like a falling leaf, barely dodging 2 strikes. The twins weren't so lucky. Their attack momentum was spent, and they couldn't move in time. They crossed their arms to block and took the hits head-on. 2 sickening metallic clangs rang out. Deep gashes opened on their forearms, bone deep, streaming blood. Their little backstabbing alliance shattered in seconds. Tai Meng and Zhao Shu scrambled away too. They wanted no part of this. If those three had targeted them instead of me, they'd be calling for rescue right now. Or worse, I was already gone. No hesitation, no looking back. I moved through the ruins like a cat, jumping, climbing, silent, searching for a high vantage point where I could watch everything below. My mind was ice cold. Han Yu and the twins had shown their true colors. No more cooperation, only kill or be killed. Tai Meng and Zhao Shu might still be worth working with, but that was a problem for later. What I really wanted was to use this chaos to hunt down those three traitors. They tried to kill me. They should be ready for the consequences. If worst came to worst, I could accept failing stage 2. I'd already scored 95 points in stage 1, enough for a decent university. But I didn't want to get badly hurt. Rescue fees are expensive. Below, the mechanical spider lost interest in everyone. With all targets retreating from its range, it folded its limbs, dimmed its metal shell, and settled back into the rubble like a pile of scrap. Back to standby mode. The abandoned mall went eerily quiet. Wind moaned through hollow windows. Nobody moved. Han Yu crouched behind a broken support pillar, scanning for me with cold eyes. She hadn't expected Shaolin to react so fast or escape so cleverly. The twins leaned against a ruined wall, injecting painkillers and bandaging their arms, eyes burning with hatred as they searched for any trace of me. Tai Meng and Zhao Shu hid furthest away, exchanging glances full of fear and relief. They trusted nobody now. Everyone understood the same thing. Whoever moves first becomes the next target. So a standoff formed. Everyone waiting for someone else to lose patience, waiting for someone to make a mistake, waiting for a new player to wander in and break the deadlock. Minutes crawled by. The mall was silent as a tomb. 3 floors above, in a wrecked office, I watched it all through a shattered window. My presence was completely hidden. I'd suppressed my energy until I blended with the shadows. I was patient. In a hunting game like this, the one who loses patience first is usually the one who dies first. Tai Meng and Zhao Shu were the weakest of our group. They were watching the front, guarding against me, Han Yu, and the twins. They never saw what came from behind. 2 shadows exploded from the darkness. Zhao Shu didn't even scream before a rusty steel pipe punched through his shoulder blade, pinning him to the ground. You can't bring weapons into the exam, but the ruins are full of them. He hit his rescue button instantly. Tai Meng heard the scream and tried to run, but the second attacker was faster. A pipe went straight through his back and out his chest. He looked down at the bloody tip protruding from his body, eyes wide with disbelief. A medic appeared out of thin air in a white uniform. Cold, professional, critical condition. Survival rate with immediate extraction, 80%. Use a premium stabilizer for 99% survival. Cost, 100,000 credits. 100,000 credits. That's the registration fee I could barely scrape together. Tai Meng pulled out a glowing green injector from his pouch and jabbed it into his own leg. He'd come prepared with a drug that costs more than my entire savings. Both wounded were loaded onto emergency stretchers and dragged away. The whole thing took maybe 15 seconds. Watching from my 3rd-floor window, a chill ran down my spine. Not from the violence, from the realization of how much I didn't know. Nobody told me about needing emergency medical funds. Bai Muxi and Mujia didn't mention it because they probably didn't know either. That kind of insider knowledge only reaches the top 5%. Kids from elite schools with elite teachers. People like me who stumbled into this exam. Maybe 2 or 3 in 10,000. I shook off the thoughts and focused on what was happening below. The attackers were a professional hunting squad. At least 5 people, maybe more. Their timing, positioning, and retreat routes were textbook perfect. They'd ambushed Tai Meng and Zhao Shu, and now they were chasing Han Yu and the twins, who'd bolted the moment the attack started. I didn't move, didn't chase anyone. Han Yu and the twins had gone from hunters to hunted, and I'd gone from hunted to invisible observer. I had 2 advantages now, martial artist senses and the fact that nobody knew where I was. I wasn't going to be the mantis catching the cicada, only to get eaten by the bird behind it. I'd be the vulture, waiting for everyone to exhaust themselves, then swooping in to collect. The chase moved away. The mall went quiet. Minutes passed. Then my senses picked up 3 new presences joining the hunting squad from different directions, replacing those who'd given chase. At least 8 people in this team. Organized, disciplined, professional. They fanned out around the dormant mechanical guardian and began a systematic sweep of the entire area. Methodical, covering every angle, flushing out any hidden threats. One of them was heading straight toward my building. I pulled back from the window without a sound, melting into the deepest shadows of the office. I stopped breathing, suppressed every trace of my presence, and became part of the darkness. I tracked his footsteps through pure sensation. 50 meters. 30. 10. He reached the base of my building. I coiled every muscle, ready to strike. Then the footsteps stopped. Complete silence. He hadn't entered. He was just standing there. His presence didn't fade. It sharpened, like a leopard crouched in tall grass, perfectly still, waiting for prey to reveal itself. What was he waiting for? I kept absolutely motionless, even slowing my heartbeat deliberately. Then, a sharp whistling sound cut through the air. A chunk of concrete smashed through a second-floor window below me. Glass shattered, echoes bouncing through the empty building. A test. The guy downstairs was trying to flush out anyone hiding by creating noise, waiting for a flinch, a gasp, a footstep. Smart. I didn't move, didn't breathe, became a statue in the shadows. Seconds crawled by. He didn't enter. He just stood there, his heartbeat steady in my senses, patient as a predator. Then fighting erupted at the mall. The mechanical guardian had been activated again. Metal clashing, energy blasts, shouting. But the man below me didn't budge. Not even a twitch. That's when it clicked. He wasn't searching this building. He was guarding it. His job was to lock down this position and prevent anyone from entering or leaving the combat zone. The people who'd chased Han Yu and the twins weren't really pursuing them. They were setting up a perimeter. This squad had sealed off the entire area. First, they'd cleared out threats like Tai Ming and Zhao Shu. Then they'd established a cordon. Now a 5-man assault team was taking down the mechanical guardian, while sentries held every approach. Hunt, seal guard. Textbook small unit tactics. This had to be something elite schools taught. No random team could coordinate like this. Waiting was a death sentence. Once they finished the guardian, they'd sweep the area with their full squad. I had to act now, while most of them were focused on the fight. One sentry between me and freedom. Just one. I picked up a meter-long steel rebar from the floor, crept to the window, and launched myself out from the 3rd floor. Mid-fall, I hurled the rebar like a javelin at the sentry's head. As expected, he dodged. My throw was crude, and he was alert. The rebar slammed into a pile of rubble behind him, kicking up a cloud of dust. But the throw was just a distraction. Before the dust settled, I was already on him. Falling from above, fist cocked, every ounce of martial artist power behind it. He crossed his arms to block, pure reflex. Then he felt my energy, and his face went white. He realized too late, I wasn't a quasi-martial artist. Crack. Both his arms broke on impact. My fist went right through his guard. Without pausing, I dropped low and drove an uppercut into his stomach. Boom. He folded like a shrimp, flew backward, crashed to the ground, and curled up convulsing. Done. Completely out of the fight. A white flash, a medic materialized beside him. The guy stared at me with pure hatred as he lay there twitching, and hissed through clenched teeth. You're a seed candidate. Smuffing in the outer zone. You piece of... I didn't expect the fight to end so fast. I'd prepared for a hard battle, maybe needing to use medicines. But the sentry couldn't even take one hit from me. Was this really the gap between a martial artist and a quasi-martial artist? No time to think. The other sentries saw their teammate go down and came rushing in, hurling rocks, twisted metal, and sharpened rebar at me from multiple angles. I weaved through the barrage like a ghost. Sparks exploded where I'd been standing a second earlier. From the battlefield, someone shouted, "Found it! The weak point is here." The 4 fighters attacking the mechanical guardian intensified their assault. 2 attackers closed in on me, left and right, cutting off my escape. Classic pincer move. I chose to attack rather than defend. I targeted the weaker one, a short-haired girl on my right, and exploded forward. She didn't expect me to charge. Her hasty punch was full of openings. I tilted my head just enough to let her fist graze my cheek, then drove an uppercut straight into her chin. One hit. Her eyes rolled back. She flew through the air and crashed to the ground, out cold. A medic appeared in a white flash. Even I was stunned. Was she that weak, or was I that strong? The guy on the left slammed to a halt, took one look at what happened, and ran. Didn't even hesitate. Smart man. I didn't chase him. My target was the badges. I turned and charged straight at the 5-man team fighting the Guardian. Their leader, the big guy using a metal door as a shield, saw me coming and yelled for the others to keep attacking while he held me off. I grabbed a loose rebar and hurled it at him like a javelin. He planted his feet and blocked with his door shield. Clang. The impact sent a visible shockwave rippling outward. His arms went numb. I could see the shock in his eyes. He knew this wasn't normal quasi-martial artist strength. But the noise was a problem. That crash would attract every team in the area. I had to finish this fast. He threw away his shield and came at me with bare fists. We traded blows. Fast, violent, deafening. After a few exchanges, I understood the situation. He was weaker than me in raw power and speed. But his technique was far superior. Every strike had clever angles and precise force. My strongest punches kept getting deflected by his skill, while his counters nearly hit my vitals several times. I was getting frustrated. I couldn't afford a long fight. Every second brought more enemies closer. So I went all in. I stopped trying to dodge. Pure exchange. Take damage to deal damage. He threw a heavy hook. I took it on the shoulder. The pain was blinding, but I didn't flinch. His follow-up attacks rained down on me. I gritted my teeth and absorbed them all, waiting for one opening. There. I lunged forward and drove my right fist into his face with everything I had. No technique, just raw martial artist power. His fist caught my cheek at the same time. My head rang like a bell, vision swimming with stars. I bit my tongue hard to stay conscious. When I steadied myself and looked up, he was already falling backward, eyes rolled white, hitting the ground like a toppled tree. Out cold. A medic appeared, glanced at my bloodied face, confirmed I could still fight, then loaded the unconscious leader onto a stretcher and dragged him away. With their leader knocked out, I didn't stop for a second. I wiped the blood from my mouth and locked onto the 4 remaining fighters still battling the mechanical Guardian. They'd watched their captain get one-punched into unconsciousness. The shock on their faces was obvious. At that exact moment, the Spider Guardian let out a final screech and collapsed, legs going limp, red eye flickering out. They'd almost killed it, but I was already charging. Mid-sprint, I pulled out 2 blood revival needles and jabbed them into both arms. The warm surge killed the pain instantly. Back to full power. Stop him, one of them screamed. Too late. I crashed into their group like a wolf among sheep. Same strategy as before, trade hits for hits. I took a spinning kick on my back, ignored the pain, and drove my fist into the nearest guy's crossed arms. He flew backward, screaming. Down. Then I swept my foot into another one's ankle. Crack. He crumpled, howling, clutching his twisted foot. Down. 2 left. One of them shouted, together, and they both immediately turned and ran in opposite directions. They glanced back at each other mid-flee, sharing a brief look of embarrassment. So much for, together, I let them go. I was covered in injuries and running on fumes. I had one goal. I rushed to the wrecked Guardian, tore open its chest armor with my bare hands, and found a palm-sized blue metal badge glowing softly among the wiring. I grabbed it. Badge detected. Collect? Yes. Current score, 10 points. Done. Every ounce of tension drained from my body at once, replaced by crushing exhaustion and pain flooding in from everywhere. The area reeked of blood. Unconscious examinees lay scattered around like debris. I had to move. The noise and smell would attract new predators any second. I dragged myself into a nearby abandoned apartment building and disappeared into the shadows. Less than a minute after I vanished, the 2 runners came back with their remaining teammates, 4 total. They crept through the battlefield, searching. Where is he? Gone. That guy was a monster. Definitely a seed candidate. The badge is gone too. They'd done all the hard work softening up the Guardian. I'd taken the prize. They were furious, but too scared to chase me. Forget it. From now on, we don't attack Guardians first. We wait for others to fight, then look for openings. They left in silence, morale destroyed. After them came Hanyu, emerging from the shadows like a ghost. She examined the wrecked Guardian and the battlefield evidence, brow furrowed, analyzing. Then she left too. The twins showed up next, looked around with grim faces, and quickly disappeared. The whole area went dead silent. On the top floor of a ruined apartment building, I drained my last bottle of nutrient solution. Didn't expect to burn through all my supplies already. Leaning against a dusty wall, I finally understood something crucial. I'd been completely wrong about the power level of this exam. Getting blasted by Yin Long and mobbed by top 500 candidates at the finish line had warped my perception. I'd been treating the top 5% as the average. But this stage had 10,000 examinees, and most of them were nowhere near that level. That hunting squad I'd just torn through? They were well-organized, disciplined, clearly from a good school. And I'd demolished them. Their sentry, their fighters, their leader. None could take more than a hit or two from me. I wasn't the underdog here. To most of these examinees, I was the monster. The seed candidate, who was smuffing in the outer zone, as that first guy had put it. While I was laughing at myself, my senses picked up movement. One person following my trail. Alone. I relocated silently and waited. Hanyu. Moving carefully, step by step, creeping toward my rooftop position. No sign of the twins. Their backstabbing alliance had probably fallen apart. Makes sense. People who betray strangers without hesitation can't trust each other either. Time to strike first. She thought she was being stealthy. The moment she was about to step onto the rooftop, I hurled a steel rebar at her from behind a wall. My throw was crooked as usual, but this time, that worked in my favor. She dodged instinctively, rolling sideways directly into the rebar's actual path. The bar punched clean through her right leg and pinned her to the wall behind. She spat blood, nearly blacking out from pain. A medic appeared instantly. Your condition? I'm fine. She gritted her teeth and reached for an emergency medicine. The medic grabbed her wrist. You've already lost. I haven't, she snarled. The medic jumped aside, and I was already there. One kick sent the medicine flying from her hand. Then I slapped her across the face. Hard. That's for trying to kill me. Her eyes rolled back. Out cold. I grabbed her tactical pouch without hesitation. The medic didn't stop me. Rules said stealing was fair game. Then it hit me. I'd knocked out several people earlier and let the medics carry them away without searching them first. I'd left behind who knows how many supplies. What a waste. I picked up the medicine she dropped. The label read, Heart Boost number 7, 2 grades above anything in my kit. Premium stuff. I was just pocketing it when danger screamed through every nerve in my body. Someone behind me. I didn't think, just threw myself into a forward roll. 2 fists slammed into the ground right where I'd been standing, cracking the concrete. The twins, they'd followed Hanyu and waited for the perfect moment to strike while I was distracted. Their combined attack was relentless, cutting off every escape route. I had no choice but to use my signature move again. Take the hits, deliver something worse. I let Qin Feng's barrage land on my shoulder and back. It hurt, but I gritted my teeth and smiled. Then I drove every ounce of power into a single punch aimed at Chen Yun. Boom. He flew backward, spitting blood, crashed down hard, and scrambled away running. Qin Feng didn't wait either. He bolted immediately. I didn't chase. Instead, I calmly pulled a nutrient bottle from Han Yu's stolen tactical pouch, took a long drink, and then followed the twins at a safe distance. Their panicked running might attract something interesting. It did. At a ruined intersection ahead, fighting erupted. The twins went down before they could even raise their fists. Whoever took them out was incredibly fast, probably a martial artist, and not alone. I immediately turned around and vanished into the ruins. Not my fight. 6 hours passed. I'd healed up using rest alone, conserving what little supplies I had left from Hanyu's pouch. I made a hard decision. No more fighting unless absolutely necessary. I had 10 badge points plus 95 from stage 1, 105 total. Not amazing, but solid. If I got knocked out and lost everything, that would be far worse than a modest score. And medical fees would ruin me. So I became the ultimate survivor. I found a hidden room on the 3rd floor of a remote 5-story building. Poor sightline but excellent concealment. Narrow hallway, single entrance, easy to defend. And I stayed there. For the next day and a half, I didn't move. I ignored every distant explosion, every scream, every clash of metal. I focused all my energy on sensing my surroundings, tracking every footstep, every breath, every suspicious movement within range. Several squads passed right below my building. None stopped. They were too busy chasing other targets to investigate some unremarkable ruin. By the 2nd day, fighting had thinned out. Most of the 1,000 guardians were destroyed. Now examinees were hunting each other for badges. The survivors were cautious and cunning. 12 hours left. The most dangerous stretch. I stayed frozen like a stone statue. Then it happened. Boom. An explosion rocked the entire building from below. Walls cracked, ceiling dust rained down. I rushed to the window and looked. Two groups were fighting right beneath me. One of them was the genius class, Lei Qianjun, Su Qingying, Yin Feilong. But they looked rough, injured, exhausted. The other group had over a dozen fighters, all powerful, working together with terrifying coordination. They were actually pushing the genius class back. Who were these people? Strong enough to corner the best students in the star system? One of their attacks had just destroyed half the load-bearing wall on my building's ground floor. The whole structure was compromised. It could collapse any second. I cursed under my breath. My perfect hiding spot had just become a death trap. The building groaned and tilted. Concrete chunks fell from the ceiling. I had to get out now. I leaped from a back window, hoping both groups below would be too busy fighting each other to notice me. Wrong. Someone's over there. Both sides spotted me simultaneously. I expected them to ignore me. Instead, the woman leading the larger group pointed at me and ordered, "Ahu, go deal with him." Then she turned back to Lei Qianjuan's group with a mocking smile. "Hand over half your badges and I'll let you go. Dream on." Lei Qianjun spat back. The woman shrugged. "Fine. We'll take everything." A young man peeled off from their group and chased after me like a hunting leopard, grinning with cruel confidence. Just cleaning up a rat. Easy work. I was furious that they'd bother sending someone after a nobody like me. But I kept my head. I needed to confirm two things. Was he alone? And could I beat him quickly? I ran at controlled speed, letting him think I was slow, while scanning the area with every sense I had. After leading him in circles and confirming no ambush, I ducked into a ruined building. He followed, laughing. Hiding in a mouse hole won't help. Just surrender, and his voice cut off. The instant he stepped through the doorway, I was already spinning around, fist loaded with everything I had. In that split-second exchange, I'd read his power level. Strong, roughly equal to that squad leader I'd beaten earlier. But not a martial artist. Good enough. The narrow stairwell was perfect. No room for him to dodge. Exactly the conditions I needed for my trading blows strategy. Our fists collided. He staggered back half a step, shock flashing across his face. My strength matched his. I didn't let him recover. I pressed forward, ignoring his heavy kick that slammed into my side. The pain was savage, but I didn't flinch. My fist was already crashing into his chest. He flew backward, coughing blood, slamming into the wall. "You're a martial artist," he gasped, eyes wide with terror. I didn't answer, just kept hitting. In this narrow corridor, he couldn't escape. My trade hits for hits approach was devastating when the opponent couldn't create distance. A few more brutal exchanges. He spat blood. I bled too. But I was still standing strong. I caught a gap when he paused to breathe and drove my elbow into his face. Crack. Teeth and blood sprayed. His eyes rolled back. Done. I searched his tactical pouch before the medic arrived. My terminal flashed. Badges collected. Current score, 30 points. 20 bonus points from his badges alone. Not bad for a mouse. The medic appeared a moment later, conveniently slow this time. Loaded him up and left. I didn't go straight back to the main battle. Instead, I circled wide, approaching carefully like a patient hunter. From a distance, I could see dust clouds rising, buildings collapsing, explosions echoing. The fight between the genius class and that large squad had intensified. Perfect. The more chaos, the better my chances of slipping in to grab something. Of course, I wasn't the only one drawn by the noise. As I crept closer, I spotted other figures converging on the battlefield from different directions. Buildings collapsed around the battlefield as Lei Qianjuan's group fought their way out. Then suddenly, they scattered, each person bolting in a different direction. That was the trigger. Every hidden scavenger around the battlefield lunged out from cover, trying to intercept the fleeing geniuses and steal their badges. They'd badly underestimated these people. Su Qingying ghosted past one attacker like he wasn't there. Lei Qianjun blew through another without slowing down. Then came the real trap. The large squad, led by a woman named Qin Xiao, burst out of the smoke and tore into the exposed scavengers like wolves among chickens. "Clear them out," she said. 2 words. Her team obeyed instantly. Screams, begging, the wet sound of fists hitting flesh. It was over in seconds. Every scavenger who'd revealed themselves was crushed. From my fifth-floor window, I felt ice run down my spine. This wasn't just fighting. This was a calculated scheme. Lei Qianjuan's group and Qin Xiaoxiao's squad had silently cooperated. One side fled to lure out hidden watchers. The other side slaughtered the exposed prey. Maybe Lei Qianjuan's retreat was genuine, but Qin Xiaoxiao used it perfectly. Brilliant and terrifying. I was about to run when I froze. A figure was sprinting directly toward my building. Yin Feilong, the same guy who'd blasted me with his Skyshatter fist back in stage 1. He was running full speed, attention focused on escape, energy scattered. He hadn't sensed me hiding here motionless like a stone. Crash. He smashed through the fourth-floor window right below me. No more thinking. No more hiding. Fight. He landed in the room below, feet barely touching the ground, when his expression changed completely. He'd sensed the killing intent radiating from directly above. But I was already there. My fist filled his vision. Point-blank range. No time to dodge. We hit each other simultaneously. His panic punch caught my face. My prepared fist caught his. Blinding pain on both sides. The difference? I'd been ready. I bit my tongue to stay sharp through the agony. He hadn't been ready. That first blow left him dazed for just a fraction of a second. That was all I needed. I erupted. Fists like a storm. No pause, no mercy. Every punch landed square on his face. Boom, 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 boom. The sound echoed through the small room like a drum of violence. He couldn't block, couldn't dodge, couldn't think. 5 seconds of nonstop hitting. His eyes rolled back. Blood covered his face. He crumpled to the floor like a puppet with cut strings. Baby-like sleep. I stood over Yin Feilong's unconscious body and finally let myself breathe.